fellow Americans.
Let's talk about the situation at the border. We've seen a huge surge in migrants crossing the border since January. The number of children in custody higher than it was than its 2019 peak during the Trump administration. Your colleague Veronica Escobar of Texas called the conditions there unacceptable. She was there on Friday. Is she right? What more must be done?
Actually, the facts are these. There are more children, about 600-700 more children, unaccompanied children, coming over the border. This is a humanitarian challenge to all of us. What the administration has inherited is a broken system at the border, and they are working to correct that in the children's interest. I'm so pleased that the president, as a temporary measure, has sent FEMA to the border in order to help facilitate the children going from one 72-hour issue into where they are cared for as they are transferred into family homes or homes that are safe for them to be.
And I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021, when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children.
Russia said once they take Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. Those are NATO countries. That puts America at war. This is about preventing war. It's always been about preventing war. My husband is a combat veteran. He's deployed now. The last thing I want him or any of his military brothers and sisters to do is to go to war.
But I think it is time to give the Ukrainians more help hitting these bases inside Russia.
One of the reasons that the administration has hesitated is because they believe it will escalate things even further with Russia pull the U.S. further in. Why not? Why? So why do you think that's a good idea?
Because it's Russia that has escalated this war. Russia has learned how to pull its forces back out of the range where we have allowed Ukraine to use our weapons and get our support.
American media outlets have spoken to scores of people from Ukraine, and they've done scores of interviews with Ukrainian President Zelensky. We ourselves have put in a request for an interview with Zelensky, and we hope he accepts. But the interviews he's already done in the United States are not traditional interviews. They are fawning pep sessions specifically designed to amplify Zelensky's demand that the U.S. enter more deeply into a war in Eastern Europe and pay for it. That is not journalism. It is government propaganda. Propaganda of the ugliest kind, the kind that kills people. At the same time, our politicians and media outlets have been doing this, promoting a foreign leader like he's a new consumer brand. Not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict, Vladimir Putin. Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine or what his goals are now. They've never heard his voice. That's wrong. Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in, and we have the right to tell them about it because we are Americans too.
The idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III.
A U.S. official has confirmed to CBS News President Biden has given authorization for Kyiv to use U.S.-supplied long-range weapons to strike deep into Russian territory.
I'm sitting here with my father. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director?
I'm not going to get into commenting on that.
You seem deeply uncurious about it, don't you? Almost suspiciously uncurious. Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not. The FBI does not and has no interest in
You won't answer the question about whether or not that's a shakedown, and everybody knows why you won't answer it. Because to the millions of people who will see this, they know it is. And your inability to acknowledge that is deeply revealing about you.
British police came into the embassy and arrested.
After a long flight from the UK, Julian Assange's day began on the island of Saipan, a tiny territory chosen because it's the closest US court to Australia. This normally quiet courthouse, swarming with reporters as the WikiLeaks founder arrived, flanked by former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd.
Individual used an AR-15 in order to act out his assassination attempt. An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
There are a number of weapons out there with a number of ranges. Again, an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken into account when we determine our perimeter. Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available.
What I'm hearing is that a perimeter was not established outdoors in an outdoor venue that would prevent an AR-15, which is one of the most common weapons used in mass shootings, from being able to be within the range of Secret Service protection.
Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
So what is the threat to democracy? People on both sides, people in power, saying out loud that they want to control what you get to hear and see. It is real, it is a threat, and it is happening and growing. And I'll tell you what, punishing thought is on the agenda. And I just heard it from someone who's not a kook, not Alex Jones, not Tucker Carlson, one of the most sober and intelligent politicians of our time, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
I think it's important to indict the Russians, just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg admitted that the Biden administration repeatedly pressured Meta to censor content, including information about Hunter Biden, and Zuck admitted that he also regrets complying with these demands. In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Representative Jim Jordan, Zuck writes, quote, "The FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it."
You know, you do some tweets that seem to be, or at least give support to some who would call others conspiracy theories.
Well, yes, but I mean, honestly, you know, some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
Which ones?
Well, like the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am in awe of Ms. Jankowicz. When the department picked her, did it know that she had said that Mr. Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation? Did it know that she had vouched for the veracity of the Steele dossier?
Senator, let me repeat myself and add an additional fact. One, we do not discuss internal hiring processes.
I think you've got no idea what disinformation is, and I don't think the government's capable of it. Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you to guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech.
To be a conspiracy theorist is to have been right all along, despite the efforts of the paid-for liars. And it's also to be demonstrably well ahead of the gullible, still believing in smoke and mirrors. Conspiracy theorist was first used by the CIA to shut down those who doubted the official line about the murder of John F. Kennedy, that fishy old tale about a lone shooter and a magic bullet, and then that lone shooter being shot by another lone shooter before he could talk. That was in the 1960s, and from then, the label conspiracy theorist worked for decades as the means to make thinking people too scared to speak when they smelt a rat. Let 2024 be the year of clearing out the rubbish, the trash, the long overdue year when the past or sell-by-date labels, conspiracy theorist among them, are cast into the dustbin of history.
And welcome, everyone. Today is the special presidential inauguration coverage from Redacted. Today we are unburdened by what has been. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris. Welcome to your inauguration day. Here we go.
It is unbelievable. I can't believe we've made it here. So we are going to spend the next few hours together here at Redacted watching the special inauguration coverage and taking you live to the Capitol. We are also going to be going live to the arena where 20,000 people have crowded in right now to pay their respects and watch the events unfold. Just about 30 minutes from now, the official ceremony is going to kick off as all these dignitaries are arriving in the Capitol. And you can see them all gathering right now at the U.S. Capitol. And Donald Trump will take the presidential oath of office in exactly around noon Eastern time is when that is.
Exactly around. It is supposed to happen. Exactly.
Give or take a minute here, and you can see Tim Cook. You can see all sorts of dignitaries now here at the Capitol gathering, everyone sort of taking their seats and arriving in the Capitol Rotunda. And you can see here, it's pretty amazing, actually. This is, of course, the first time we've had an inauguration indoors since Ronald Reagan's 1984 inauguration. It was frigid. It was negative 24 degrees in Washington, D.C. in 1984.
Whoa.
So they moved it indoors.
So we'll forgive them. Yes.
But Rudy Giuliani last night said something interesting. He said that it's 23 degrees right now in Washington. So yes, it's very cold. But they're inside the Capitol, and Rudy Giuliani last night said that the reason they're there is because of security issues. He said he wouldn't really say it and that Trump had to be strong-armed to bring it inside. But there were serious security concerns. It's not about the weather.
We covered that last week, not just with the prediction of the pastor who had also predicted the shooting of Donald Trump, but absolutely, how can you secure Donald Trump, and how do we trust the people who have been tasked with that after the campaign that he's had? So, I think that's definitely a valid reason. Now, what's funny is that the liberal media on MSNBC and CNN has been saying that he is just afraid of small crowds, that he didn't want to have to make excuses for the crowd size. Okay, but while we're talking about crowd size, over the weekend there were protests over the incoming Trump administration that were what the liberal media called limp. They were not as well attended as the 2017 protests. They're saying, the Telegraph reporting, well, it's because people are doing their protesting at home. I guess, liberals, they loved the COVID lockdown so much that they felt like that needs to continue for everything they do. They need to do everything at home, I suppose.
Well, and also we got word that George Soros was funding a lot of these protests and sending out different emails and notifications and things like that as well, and making sure that these individuals were arriving there for the protests. So they were getting all of these sort of George Soros emails, and it was all sort of backed by them. But no one showed up. I guess they were saying, that's, we don't need that. That's, we don't really care. So as we take a look here live at the U.S. Capitol, you can see Elon Musk standing next to, there's Pam Bondi, there's Pete Hegseth in the back there on the phone, Vivek Ramaswamy. And you can see everyone sort of taking their seats, getting ready here in about 25 minutes. The ceremony will start. The presentation of colors will begin. The invocation will start. So in about 25 minutes from now. And then, of course, the swearing-in ceremony takes place at noon Eastern. J.D. Vance, of course, will be sworn in first as vice president. That's always the way it goes in case, unfortunately, something happens to President Trump. That's how the order of things happens. And then President Trump will be sworn in right after that. Then President Trump will speak. Who knows how long? Likely will be longer than George Washington's second inaugural address, where he spoke for 135 words. And that was it. 135 words, the brevity. He was like, I don't want the pomp and circumstance, the ceremony. I'm speaking for 135 words. We're done. We'll see if Trump, I have a feeling Trump will speak a lot longer than 135 words.
Possibly, yes. Oh, okay.
That's right. Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. Okay. So, our live presidential coverage today, because I don't know if you saw, by the way, overnight, of course, gold markets surging, silver markets surging, Bitcoin surging to $107,000 for Bitcoin. So today's special live coverage is brought to you by our friends over at Lear Capital. If you would like to learn how to invest in gold and silver with this incoming Trump administration, promoting the idea of investing in gold and silver, go to LearRedacted.com right now. And you can go or call their 1-800 number, 1-800 1-800-613-3557 to get your free gold and silver guide, because we have a shortage right now, and it's important to understand, like, what are all these tariffs that Trump is going to put in place? What is that going to do to gold markets? What is that going to do to the U.S. dollar? So you can go get your free report right now. Just go to LearRedacted.com or call their 800 number, 1-800-613-3557. Again, that's 1-800-613-3557. And you can connect with our friends at Lear Capital. So let's go back live to the Capitol building today and see where things stand again. This is the Capitol Rotunda. This is an unprecedented moment. I wouldn't say unprecedented. We haven't seen this in 40 years, this ceremony being brought inside the Capitol Rotunda because of the inclement weather. At least that's what they're telling us. As we reported earlier, Giuliani, former mayor of New York City, said last night that it's not about the weather, it's about security. That's why they're inside the Capitol Rotunda. Interesting to see, of course, that just a short time ago, Jimmy Carter laying in state inside the U.S. Capitol as well.
Well, this is our version of palace intrigue. As Americans, we don't get to see a lot of our lawmakers in the same place. We also obviously have interest in their spouses, their fashion, who arrives and who treats who like what. There was some booing as the Obamas and the Clintons made their way inside because, as we've reported copiously, this is the end of the Obama era, the era that brought us, war, censorship, a tanking economy, rampant government spending. I think a lot of people who did vote in the Trump administration voted against those things. So we're seeing not just lawmakers come in, but how lawmakers interact with each other, whether or not they can show us that we have more in common than not. We will see. We'll see how that unfolds.
Amazing. So as dignitaries taking their seats here, we saw, look at Lauren Sanchez there. That's Jeff Bezos's wife up there on the left part of your screen.
They're not married.
Oh, they're not married yet?
They are.
Okay.
That's his engagement.
So she takes off her jacket and you can see her bra.
It's a busti la caca.
I mean, really? On this day, she took off her jacket and she turned around and RFK Jr. was like, whoa, what are you wearing to the president?
Did you just wear this?
And you're going to be right behind the president of the United States, wearing a bra open like that? Okay.
Yes, she is. She made that decision. She is going to do that.
All right. We want to go live to Capital One Arena right now because Michelle Backus is there for us, joining us live today from the arena, where this is the overflow area, right, Michelle? Over 20,000 people have been filing in there. What does the scene look like there, Michelle? From Real America's Voice, thank you so much for joining us, Michelle.
To be with you guys. The seats are filling up here inside of Capital One Arena, right in downtown DC. But something really important that I want to get you guys a look at. Take a look right behind me. If you can see this stage, and I'm going to try to zoom in here. There is a desk on that stage with a microphone and a chair, and it's assumed that President Trump is going to sit in that chair and sign some of those many executive orders he's talking about signing today on day one.
Wow. So he could come over there. I mean, all these people who thought they were going to be out in the cold today, Michelle, thought, oh, this is what a letdown. We might not even see the president today, but they're going to get a show.
Yeah, and that's exactly what President Trump said yesterday during his rally here at Capital One Arena. A lot of people, I guess, urged him to wait on signing all these executive orders. He said, the hell with it. I'm not waiting. Sorry if I swore there, but that's just what he said, and he wants to get right to it. So I imagine that's what's going on here. And just talking with some of the staff, we already have an idea of what those executive orders are going to be. Now, something very anticipated, guys, is the J6 pardons. That's what I'm hearing all around the arena today. A lot of people are anticipating those J6 pardons today.
I mean, you have to imagine that those have been prepared with great care because liberals have already said that they are going to challenge these executive orders in court. Now, a Trump administration advisor said they're ready for that they're going to be 100% successful. So it will be interesting to see the audience reaction to the things that they voted for, such as a defining women and gender ideology bill, such as pardons of January 6th. So have you been speaking to any patrons there, any audience goers who are saying, this is what I want to see, this is what I came for?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And, I've attended a lot of rallies. I was at the rally yesterday, and I always take note of what the crowd screams the loudest in response to. Yeah. And something, you had mentioned it, was actually when President Trump said, we want to keep men out of women's sports. That was a big hit here at Capital One Arena. Another huge hit, of course. He talked about TikTok. That was pretty big. And he also just said about ending these DI initiatives that the Biden administration was so bent on shoving down Americans' throats. You can tell by the mandate. You can tell by what happened during the election. Americans are sick of it. And you know what's really funny, guys, is you can see on the Jumbotron right up there, they are showing, obviously, the entire ceremony. And it's funny to see when the crowd cheers and when the crowd boos. So when Mike Pence walked past a little bit ago, they booed.
I was going to ask you, who was getting the boos when you saw President Obama walk by, Bill Clinton walked in? Was there a lot of boos going through the arena?
Oh, yeah. Obama got a big boo. Mike Pence got a big boo. Elon Musk was on. Of course, he got a lot of cheers. So it's really funny. You get to see the real-time reaction here in the crowd. And guys, people were lined up around 6 this morning to get in and get good seats here. And I'll tell you what, I know we're going back and forth on security reasons. Obviously, we all have our own sources. But I will say this, objectively, it's very, very cold out. And I know a lot of patrons were waiting outside for hours just to get a good seat inside of here.
Wow.
Yeah,
Can you remember when Mike Pence was booed for going to Hamilton by liberals? And now Mike Pence is being booed by Republicans? That guy can't catch a... How times have changed.
Yeah. It's amazing to look at the individuals here, Michelle. So we got Mark Zuckerberg sat there next to Lauren Sanchez, who decided not to wear a shirt today to the with Jeff Bezos.
That's fashion, you guys. Somewhere. That's billionaire fashion.
I guess. Yeah, just we don't even need to wear shirts anymore if you're a billionaire.
They don't have the cloth to cover their cleavage.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So security, I know that was a big concern, so I don't want to downplay at all the cold, but Rudy Giuliani last night on stage at the rally or the event last night, the candlelight dinner and all of that, saying that it really wasn't about the cold, it's about security. 25,000 National Guard troops, etc. So you're saying it is absolutely freezing and worthy of people being indoors today to not get frostbite out there.
Look, I'm definitely saying it's cold out. It's freezing. But in the same breath, I do believe there are security concerns. And think about it. We have to think about drones nowadays in 2025. We have to be prepared from the air and the ground. And I think that's a big concern. You even saw that with some of the Secret Service vehicles coming in with Trump. I believe something's going on behind me. I'm not sure if you guys want to go back to the main stage, but there's
heard something too.
Sweet Home Caroline. Yep. So I think something's about to happen.
All right, Michelle. Well, stay safe there, and just to get a sense, 20,000. By the way, is that arena just packed? I mean, 20,000 people. Seems like it's sold out in there, right?
Packed. There are definitely more people here today than there were yesterday for the rally. So wow. I'd imagine every single seat would be filled. I'm looking right now at the top row, the third row right now. There are about 5 or 6 open sections left, but I imagine that those are going to be filled in the next hour or two.
All right, we got Sweet Caroline.
Sweet
Caroline in the background. Michelle, we'll let you get back to it. Thank you so much for that coverage. We'll check back with you if we can. If you're not swarmed by people, we'll try to get back to you. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Of course,
Michelle
guys. Thanks for having me.
From Real America's Voice there. Thank you, Michelle. Great job.
When I was a CBS reporter, I did a piece that never made air because of the Hudson Valley plane landing. So I'm going to tell you about it right here.
Okay.
Is that AT&T, Verizon, they had to bring in all of these cats and cows, these extra receptors for cell phone coverage. So you wonder, because how are all of those people going to get on the network at the same time in a small space? She had good data, thankfully, but it will be interesting to see who can actually get on their phones, who can live stream, and how they've prepared for that.
And of course, some of the reporters we have today have special live view coverage, so separate from the cell network, so they don't have to compete with like the Verizons, the AT&Ts of the world. They have a separate whole system here. So let's take a look back here at the Capitol. Presidents of the United States just arriving just moments ago. Former Presidents Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama arriving. Let's listen in here just a little bit. We're awaiting about 15 minutes from now the presentation of colors, and then the swearing-in ceremony takes place about 44 minutes from now. Constitutionally, it needs to take place at noon. They'll start with J.D. Vance taking the oath of office, followed by
Here is former President Barack Obama
Trump.
arriving on his own?
You know, interestingly, President Obama, the first president in U.S. history to take the oath of office, and it was screwed up. Do you remember Chief Justice John Roberts put the word faithfully out of order? And then President-elect Obama at the time looked at him kind of quizzically and then repeated the word faithfully in the order that John Roberts said it. And then the next day, it's the first time in American history that they had to do a do-over. The next day in the White House, Chief Justice Roberts came over, and just so that they would avoid any legal issues, he read the oath of office again to him the following day and had to redo it.
Also, Hillary Clinton, in her book, What Happened, reported that after Donald Trump's inauguration speech in 2017, she was sitting near the Bushes. George Bush reportedly turned to her and said, "That was some weird S." That's a direct quote from Hillary Clinton's book. That was some weird S, he said. So we'll see how George Bush takes to this year's speech as he's in the audience once again to witness the swearing in.
Here come the Supreme Court justices into the hall. You know, it's interesting going back to 1797 when the inauguration the oath was administered at the second inaugural under John Adams, as C-SPAN says there. The first, of course, inauguration took place in New York City, George Washington. The second inauguration, George Washington spoke for just 135 words. Didn't say much at all, wasn't really interested in the pomp and circumstance of it all. Thomas Jefferson started the first time in Washington, D.C., being sworn in Washington, D.C., and started the whole parade thing. So Thomas Jefferson did the whole walk, and he was a quiet person, so it seemed weird that he was like really an introvert, so that he started the whole walk from the Capitol to the White House. The parade started, the pomp and circumstance started. It's going to be interesting today to see what sort of parade happens outside, in this cold weather. Of course, last time, you remember President Trump started walking down the street. And it was, kind of greeting everyone in the cold. Yes. And Melania got out and started walking down along the parade route as well. This is a look back in 2016. You can take a look here. This was right afterwards. And was the president going to hop out? And they really didn't want him be hopping out, like shaking hands with people. But he did. He was like, let's just stop the cars. Just stop the cars. I just want to get out and say hi to everyone and walk along here. Much warmer that day, though. Look how small Barron is compared to
Baby Barron.
Barron there. This is 2016.
I was very intrigued on how Melania did that walk in those stiletto heels, but she did several blocks.
Yeah.
She today is in stiletto boots. Still, we'll see how far she has to go.
I'm filling up some coffee here.
Are you
can
doing
keep it
that?
on this shot. No, sorry.
Okay. So, I mean, I can't help myself but watch what the First Lady and the new Second Lady are wearing. They seem to be nailing it with their fashion. Usha Vance today has chosen pink, which may, in fact, be a unifying color, showing that she's neither Democrat or Republican. She's representing all Americans today, and I love it.
Raven says Melania is hotter than Big Mike.
We have conversations about that in a redacted chat that we will maybe keep offline. But yes, I'm here for what they have to wear. I love it. So
record-breaking cold, not necessarily record-breaking, 23 degrees, though, as Michelle Bacchus was just telling us a few moments ago, it is cold. And, of course, you get the wind and the wind chill as well. So the word on the street was, yes, it was going to be cold. However, there are significant security concerns, and that's what Rudy Giuliani said last night, that he knows from his own sourcing on this that they had to twist Trump's arm to bring it inside the Capitol Rotunda for the very first time since Ronald Reagan 40 years ago. Ronald Reagan, negative 23 or 24 degrees when they brought it into the Capitol Rotunda. Absolutely frigid temperatures back then. Here is Ronald Reagan. This was the second inauguration in 1984, 1985. For President Reagan inside the Capitol Rotunda. And negative 24 degrees at the time. And that was the first time in almost 100 years that it was moved inside the Capitol. You had, not since William Howard Taft, back in the early 1900s, 1909, they got hit with a massive blizzard inside Washington, D.C., and they had to bring in 6,000 people to clear these roads. This is William Howard Taft's inauguration. Look at that. They had to bring in 6,000 people. And back then, it was very, like, if to get a job, there is William Howard Taft and his wife. In fact, that's Helen. That's the first time in a presidential that a first lady joined a president.
Tell your story about William Henry Harrison.
Yes. Well, so if you want to go back, this is one of the reasons why people always pull this up. So this is the first photo ever taken of a president. This is William Henry Harrison back in 1841. So he, of course, became president after standing out in the cold and frigid temperatures and gave a 90 so minute address without a coat. Here was his inauguration, and it was freezing. And then he developed pneumonia, and then he died 31 days later. So this is sort of a lesson. Maybe you wear a coat to the inauguration.
And maybe you keep your speech just a little bit shorter. I think he's clocking in at the longest inauguration speech ever given, over 2 hours. And I believe it was raining. Although historians have gone back and said, actually, it seems like he got some kind of bug. You don't just die from being cold.
Yeah.
And that he did have some sort of virus, but could have been made worse. You got it. I mean, I am a where's that baby's coat? You know, you got to be warm.
So we'll see President Trump. It'll be interesting to see what Bible he chooses this time. There's always the mystery of what Bible they're going to choose. Today, of course, is the first time since Bill Clinton's inauguration that we have the inauguration on the very same day as Martin Luther King Day as well, a national holiday in the United States. President Obama used MLK's Bible for his swearing-in ceremony. Will President Trump also use MLK's Bible or some other Bible? It's not sure. Calvin Coolidge famously left the Bible in the hotel room. So he's like, where's my Bible? Oh, crap, it's in the hotel room. So they had to scramble to find a Bible. Right. Does anybody have a Bible? Please.
We're also going to see the performance by Carrie Underwood. We'll see how that. Oh, here is the first and second spouses arriving. There's Jill Biden wearing purple and Doug Emhoff, second gentleman, for just a few more minutes.
A little short time ago, of course, Melania and President-elect Trump were at the White House for the tea ceremony, enjoying some tea with President Biden. And Jill Biden before coming over to the Capitol Rotunda. And that must have been incredibly awkward because last night we had a whole raft of pardons that President Biden put in place last night, sort of at the midnight hour, the last 24 hours of his presidency. Shocking pardons, actually. When we woke up this morning, we were like, what? Are you kidding me? Fauci?
Oh, you better believe we're going to be going over this in the regular version of Redacted as this week unfolds. This is not the time. We're watching the inauguration right now. But yeah, I am loaded for bear over these preemptive pardons of General Mark Milley, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and members of Congress and staff who served on the Select Committee, and the U.S. Capitol and D.C. Metropolitan Police officers who testified before the Select Committee.
Liz Cheney, meaning basically Liz Cheney.
Who witness tampered.
Yeah, who allegedly
totally
witness tampered beforehand. So this is really an admission of these crimes. Here's what Senator Rand Paul, of course, he wrote a book on Dr. Fauci. He tweeted this early this morning.
It says, if there was ever any doubt as to who bears responsibility for the COVID pandemic, Biden's pardon of Fauci forever seals the deal. As chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, I will not rest until the entire truth of the cover-up is exposed. Fauci's pardon will only serve as an accelerant to pierce the veil of deception. Ignominious. Anthony Fauci will go down in history as the first government scientist to be preemptively pardoned for a crime. Now, it's worth noting that pardon will nullify his ability to plead the Fifth Amendment. And so he should be subpoenaed post haste. We will be continuing to discuss this as the week unfolds.
And General Mark Milley, of course, basically going to give the preemptive heads up to the Chinese if we were going to strike. That's treason. Why he should be court-martialed. And he, by the way, admitted recently that he likely would be court-martialed. As people are pointing out in the chat, these are not necessarily pardons, although they fall under the presidential pardon. So that's what the power that he used for this are these like sort of presidential immunity, sort of like a preemptive immunity for these people.
Sounds like carte blanche.
Yes,
yeah.
Sounds like
yes, it does.
Like anything. Like anything you've done. It's an admission of guilt.
And we don't know how these preemptive pardons will be tested in court. They do not apply to state laws. So if attorneys generals in certain states say, I'm sorry, no, because we've seen that a presidential pardon has not protected President Trump from state prosecution, that still exists. So we'll see what attorneys generals have the appetite to continue to look into what was done to the American people, not just on January 6th, using our tax money for political prosecutions, but yes, also during the COVID pandemic, which the falling out of the consequences of lockdowns and vaccine mandates we have not seen the end of. And we should want answers. Absolutely, they owe us answers.
Let's go back to the U.S. Capitol. This is the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. Again, the first time in 40 years that this has been moved indoors due to inclement weather. And you can see here all of the dignitaries arriving there. Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump.
Yes to the hat. I love it.
The
Yes
hats
to
are
the Kardashian contouring of her makeup. Yes to all of that. I can't help myself, you guys.
These are things I don't know. Look how tall Barron is next
Pam
to Elon
Bondi
Musk. There.
in that pinkish, we'll call it not really gingham, tweed. Love it.
Twill. There's Pete Hegseth behind Barron Trump, my old co-host. Pete Hegseth, my old...
I don't see him.
He was just behind Barron Trump. But Barron Trump is so tall that it's hard to block him out there. I just saw Newt Gingrich a moment ago, former Speaker of the House. During the Clinton years, of course, the contract with America in the second 2 years into the President Clinton's term. There's President Clinton there to the right. And not in appearance today, of course, is Michelle Obama. Now, Jack Posobiec a few weeks ago reported that they are on the outs. That is why she didn't show up to Jimmy Carter's funeral. She didn't want to be seen next to Barack Obama. I don't know if that's the case, but she's not there today.
Tim Cook of Apple did, in fact, show up. I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's all right. There's Kristi Noem, of course, up there in the right-hand corner, right next to Vivek Ramaswamy, Jill Biden, Doug Emhoff there. We still haven't seen Kamala Harris yet. So Elon Musk last night giving a speech saying, it's been great, all this sort of pomp and circumstance, but now we have to get to work. Now we have to start slashing all of the spending. He, of course, with Vivek Ramaswamy, are going to be in charge of the DOGE, the Government Accountability Office. A number of states are also now putting in place DOGE for their own state budgets as well to try to slash spending. The incoming Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, was testifying saying government has a spending problem, not a revenue problem. So it seems like they're all on the same page with spending. We'll see if they want to start slashing any of the money that we're sending to Ukraine and Israel and other places like that. We'll have to see about all that.
Well, I do believe that a lot of people who voted in the Trump administration are small government advocates. And so that is something that a lot of the cabinet appointees have stood for. We'll see if they are actually able to accomplish it. So, we can be excited about it, but there's a realism behind it. It's an uphill battle. We'll see how that happens.
All right, about 30 minutes now, J.D. Vance will take the presidential oath of office. In about 2 minutes' time, we're going to have the presentation of the colors, of course, and you'll hear some music for the next 30 minutes or so, and then the inauguration, the actual ceremony will take place. My kids were asking earlier today because we were watching it, and they're saying, so what is this all about, Daddy? Like, what's happening here? And I'm like, well, this is the moment when President Biden leaves office, and the office of the presidency is handed over to President-elect Trump, and it happens within about a minute window where he takes the official oath of office with the Chief Justice John Roberts, of course, administering the oath. And then he'll speak. And then now he's the president of the United States. It's pretty cut and dry and straightforward.
Yes. And given that today is a holiday, MLK holiday, if you are watching with your children, let us know. This is something that we have told our children, you have to sit down and watch this. This is an important civic moment in our country. This is what defines us, is the peaceful transition of power. My son, however, since we are in Central Time, is still asleep. And so I have just sent a message, Mountain Time, sorry. I sent a message to his sister saying, wake him up.
Yes.
This is something to watch for all of us.
Yeah, we are live in the Rocky Mountains today in the middle of a snowstorm watching this, which is so great. Thank you, Jason the Doodler, for your $10 super chat. Says, cheers from Wisconsin. Let's hope they all play well together. So much potential ahead. Much love to you, Clayton and Natali. I know we're all hopeful. We're all hopeful that, the ceasefire persists in the Middle East. We're hopeful that money is pulled back from the war in Ukraine and that ends. You're, of course, seeing gold prices surging overnight, silver, Bitcoin hitting $107,000 a Bitcoin. The markets are exuberant right now, but is the market sort of out of whack with the reality? I just did a whole report and I'm going to publish it soon, but President Biden just left a bombshell for President Trump. I mean, we are sitting on a commercial real estate loan issue right now that's going to hit during President Trump's term. with all of these office buildings that are totally vacant, or 40% vacant or so. And this is going to be a huge problem for the incoming administration. How many banks would default on these commercial loans? We could see hundreds of them defaulting. Gerald Salenti from the Trends Forecast speaking with us just the other day about that issue. So I think there's quite a bit of, and of course, President Biden also putting as many of the trillions of dollars outlays from the infrastructure projects, already sort of allocating those. Now, there are reports that this afternoon, President Trump will, in fact, sign over 100 executive orders. One of those specifically will be to undo the massive Inflation Reduction Act, which was a total boondoggle and did nothing to curb inflation. And there could be a series of executive orders specifically around the Inflation Reduction Act today. There may be a piece of it they'll have to take to court if he wants to just go through with an executive order on that piece. It'll be interesting to see. Or is he going to try to push Congress for the other pieces of it? So there's a lot that he can actually undo with an executive order today with the Inflation Reduction Act, trying to undo a lot of the spending from President Biden through executive order. So we'll have to see that today.
One of the things my daughter asked me last night is, will prices at Sephora go down? Well, one of the things, obviously, that President Trump has promised is to remove regulations so that businesses can operate more efficiently, which would, in theory, really bring down consumer prices. Not just at Sephora, but in regular grocery stores, too, for the rest of us. That's a tween's priorities, but for the rest of us, it's energy prices, it's grocery prices, it's cost of living. Again, that's a big ask from an administration, but given that President Trump has said he wants to be more favorable to businesses, which is what the Biden administration absolutely was not, we will see if that actually helps the rest of us.
We
Sephora
see
shoppers and not.
Make America Healthy Again. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., of course, pushing for the use of psychedelics and all sorts of different things. We want to thank our friends over at Soul today for right now. You can go to getsoul.com, get 30% off your order. And it's pretty amazing right now. A lot of people can use this right now. Politicians, someone in pop culture, a lot of people going viral for taking the edge off after a long day. So what you want to do right now is try to get a little relaxed with Soul. Go to getsoul.com and try out some of their out-of-office gummies, perfectly microdosed with hemp-derived THC and CBD to give any day that chilling on the beach vibe right now. So maybe some people are going to be a little stressed today with what's going on there. Anyway, go check them out. Use the promo code Redacted at getsoul.com. Get 30% off your order. Try Soul's out-of-office gummies and give them a shot. GetSoul.com. Use the code Redacted for 30% off your order. That's 30% off your order using Redacted. One last time, GetSoul.com, code Redacted for 30% off. Joe Rogan talking quite a bit about this recently. All right, let's go back to the U.S. Capitol now. Here is J.D. Vance, soon to be Vice President of the United States, Senator J.D. Vance. He's about to take the Vice Presidential oath of office. He'll take the Vice Presidential oath of office before President Trump does. And it's done for, of course, purposes in case anything, God forbid, should happen. And that's going to happen in about 27 minutes from now.
Shall we listen in?
Sure.
All right, entering now Chuck Schumer, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. I don't know where I got that from.
Sullivan. Let's just call him Sullivan. Okay. He had quite a bombshell the other day, Mike Johnson did this weekend, admitting that when he's had meetings with President Biden, that he's not running the country. He admitted that, in fact, the CIA and the deep state is effectively running the United States. When he met with President Biden had no idea, in fact, that he had signed executive orders on LNG, natural gas exports from the United States, and a whole host of other things. And the president said, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, Mr. President, you signed these executive orders. He said, no, I didn't.
Now there are reports that the Trump administration will launch an investigation as to who actually did that, given the President Biden did not know that. In fact, when Speaker Johnson asked him, why did you, in fact, hold up these natural gas leases? He said, oh, no, I just ordered some research conducted on that. So President Trump saying he wants to get to the bottom of actually who has been running the country since.
So here's President-elect Donald Trump walking into the Capitol Rotunda. Let's listen in now. After he takes the oath of office, they will play Hail to the Chief. It'll be a short, short oath. There's Melania Trump in her beautiful hat. So Hail to the Chief, first time ever played, happened, of course, in 1829 after Andrew Jackson was inaugurated, the first time they ever played Hail to the Chief. So now it's been a tradition ever since. And they'll play that. He'll step up to the podium and give his speech. My gosh, look how tall Barron Trump is. It's crazy to think in the last 8 years since we last saw him at the last inauguration what that looks like. What a hat.
What a hat. Hers?
What a hat.
It's fabulous.
People in the chat are saying, what a hat. What do you guys think of her hat? What do you guys think in the chat?
I think it's fabulous. Maybe can we bring the sound back up? Is that okay? To the service?
You can. Oh.
Yeah, let's listen in.
It's up, but I don't hear anything.
Yeah, me neither.
Ladies and gentlemen, escorting the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States, ranking member of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Deb Fischer, House Democratic Leader, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, and Senate Majority Secretary, the Honorable Robert Duncan. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, the Honorable Joseph R. Biden Jr., and Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Kamala Devi Harris.
So here we're seeing for the last time active President Joe Biden, active Vice President Kamala Harris for just about 20 more minutes.
22 minutes, and he'll get on Marine One. Actually, it won't be Marine One any longer, and he'll fly out of Washington, D.C., probably down to Delaware after that. President Trump's speech is expected to focus on themes of renewal, national pride,
Ladies and gentlemen, escorting the Vice President-elect
and America's
the Executive
future.
Director for the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, Mr. Michael Wagner, Senate Deputy Sergeant-at-Arms and Doorkeeper, Jason Bell, and House Deputy Sergeant-at-Arms, Mr. Sean Keating.
People in the chat saying, hey, can you guys slow down the chat? So funny because the other day everyone's like, can you guys please turn off slow mode on your chat?
It's an exciting moment. We're all excited. We welcome your comments. Overwhelming in the chat.
Ladies,
you guys Melania's hat is
Vice
fabulous.
President-elect of the United States, the Honorable J.D. Vance.
Natalie and I both read his book, Hillbilly Elegy, a few months ago, and such a fascinating book. I'd encourage, if you haven't read it,
to think about where this fatherless child has come from, domestic abuse and substance abuse in his family, to take this oath of office right now, be the second in command of the entire country.
Go to Yale, go to the U.S. Marine Corps, serve with distinction, become a U.S. Senator. After, as a child, jumping out of a moving car because his mother was threatening to kill him. Just to hear the unbelievable stories from his youth in Kentucky.
And behind him, soon to be Second Lady Usha Vance.
Here's Donald Trump Jr. Behind is Lauren Sanchez, RFK Jr., set to be head of Health and Human Services, HHS. So many executive orders today. Over 100 executive orders. Now, Michelle Backus joined us from the arena, Capital One Arena, just a few minutes ago, where over 20,000 people are joined in the Capital One Arena, and President Trump is expected to go over there and sign a series of executive orders in front of that audience.
For the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, Elizabeth Farah. House Sergeant-at-Arms, the Honorable William P. McFarland. Senate Sergeant-at-Arms and Doorkeeper, the Honorable Jennifer A. Hemingway. Senate Majority Leader, the Honorable John Thune. And the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, House Democratic Leader, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries. House Majority Leader, the Honorable Steve Scalise. Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Mike Johnson. Senate Democratic Leader, the Honorable Charles E. Schumer. Ranking Member of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Deb Fischer. And Chairwoman of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Amy Klobuchar.
Someone in the chat asking, why do they keep looking up at the roof? And it's because that, if you've ever been in the Capitol Rotunda, it's beautiful. So you're like looking around at this beautiful, this beautiful building. Again, this is the first time that this has been moved indoors since Ronald Reagan's second inaugural, where it was negative 23 degrees. So everyone's kind of looking around. They don't get to spend a lot of time in this room. So that's why they're all looking around. Natalie pointing out that I haven't seen Nancy Pelosi.
I have not. I've been looking.
She's standing them up. She's not coming. Pelosi is too good for this?
Is this a statement? I don't recall her making a statement that she wouldn't.
Michelle
and here
Obama.
we go. Here comes the president-elect, folks. The 47th president, soon to be Donald J. Trump. Can't get under that hat.
She's like, don't mess up my makeup.
They must have practiced that. You cannot get anywhere near this. This is a whole vibe.
It is really a remarkable moment when you think about President-elect Trump winning 7 swing states, sweeping all 7 of the swing states, winning in categories from gay Americans, Latinos, Black Americans, white Americans,
young people,
surging
in young people, absolutely
across
right.
every demographic, Amish, across every demographic group.
However, liberals felt about his win in 2016 that if only the popular vote were the clincher, that is no longer an argument. He won both the electoral vote and the popular vote. We were here together on election night here on Redacted, and here we are to watch the fruits of that vote.
There's Congressman Tim Burchett there on the right from Tennessee.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
So the actual oath swearing in will happen in exactly 16 minutes. They'll start with J.D. Vance and then move to President-elect Trump for the swearing in. No word on how long President Trump's speech will go, but he likes to speak for quite a while, so it could take a while.
He's probably pretty excited. He gets a little wordy.
George Washington's second inaugural was only 135 words.
Please welcome the chairwoman of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Amy Klobuchar.
Minnesota Senator Klobuchar.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 60th presidential inauguration. Today, President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Vance will take their oaths of office. and we will witness the peaceful transfer of power at the heart of our democracy. For the past year, I've chaired the inaugural ceremony committee, which includes the leadership of Congress from both parties. We thank the committee and Capitol staff and law enforcement who worked so hard over the last year, and especially the last 3 days. You've done a beautiful job, and you have shown grace under pressure. Our theme this year is our enduring democracy. The presence of so many presidents and vice presidents here today is truly a testament to that endurance. We welcome President Biden and Dr. Biden. We welcome Vice President Harris and Doug Emhoff, President Obama, President Clinton and Secretary Clinton, President Bush and Laura Bush, Vice President Pence, Vice President Quayle and Marilyn Quayle. The justices of the United States Supreme Court are with us, all 9 of them I counted, and of course, the Trump and Vance families. This ceremony marks what will soon be 250 years of our democracy. It is the moment when leaders, elevated by the will of the people, promise to be faithful to our Constitution, to cherish and defend it. It is the moment when they become, as we all should be, the guardians of our country. Through war and peace, through adversity and prosperity, we hold this inauguration every 4 years, and today it falls on Martin Luther King Day, a further reminder that we must strive to uphold the values enshrined in our Constitution, the freedoms, the liberties, and, as is inscribed on the entrance of the United States Supreme Court, equal justice under law. But what makes this moment more than a passing ceremony is all who are watching it across the country, the people of this nation, the ordinary people doing extraordinary things. President Kennedy, who at one point worked as a senator in this building and would often walk through this very rotunda, once said, "In a democracy, every citizen, regardless of interest in politics, holds office. Every one of us is in a position of responsibility." With that responsibility of citizenship comes an obligation not to seek out malice, as President Lincoln once reminded us, but to view others with a generosity of spirit despite our differences. With that responsibility of leadership comes an obligation to stand our ground when we must and find common ground when we can. With everything swirling around us, the hot mess of division, it is on all of us, to quote an incredible songwriter who just happened to be born in my state, to ensure that our nation's democracy is our shelter from the storm. There's a reason this ceremony takes place at the Capitol. In other countries, it might be in a presidential palace or a gilded executive office building. Here it is traditionally held at the Capitol, the People's House. It is a fitting reminder of the system of checks and balances that is the very foundation of our government, 3 equal branches of government. That is how, for nearly 250 years, our great American experiment, grounded in the rule of law, has endured. So, as we inaugurate a new president and vice president, let us remember that the power of those in this room comes from the people. The construction workers who build our country, the teachers and healthcare workers who nurture us, the troops defending our freedoms, and yes, the firefighters in Los Angeles putting themselves on the line for us. Our democracy's strength and grit must match theirs. May God bless our nation. Thank you.
You're watching Amy Klobuchar delivering the address, reminding the American people that it is them who elect their leaders. Their power does not come from within.
We're awaiting J.D. Vance to take the presidential oath of office. And then, of course, President-elect Trump after that.
Endurance through the years is the ultimate test. To persevere through time is the truest measure of an idea, an institution, and a nation. Our founders wrote the Constitution so that America could withstand all the twists and turns of time. They wrote it to guide us and to preserve forever our right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But as much as the truths and principles enshrined in our Constitution remain the same, our democracy promises the American people the power to change, to chart their own destiny. That's the beauty. That is the importance of democracy. It allows the endurance, the permanence of a nation through change. It allows nations like our United States both to avoid the obstacles and to seize the opportunities God has placed before us, all while staying true to our founding principles. Today is our country's 60th inauguration ceremony. Like all the others before it, it is a celebration of our right to set our uniquely American course. The past several years have been trying at times for many, many Americans, and also for the nations of the free world that we humbly strive to lead. In November, Americans chose again to steer this nation towards greatness, the secure, safe, and prosperous future that our founders envisioned for all of us. And today, we celebrate not only their decision to do so, but also the simple right and wisdom of a free people to make their own choice so that their nation might endure. And now, allow me to welcome Archbishop Timothy Dolan and Reverend Franklin Graham, who will deliver our invocation. Please rise.
Deb Fischer there, the Republican from Nebraska. 7 minutes away now.
Be still
from the oath.
And know that I am God, supreme among the nations, supreme on the earth. Let us pray. Remembering General George Washington on his knees at Valley Forge, recalling Abraham Lincoln at his second inaugural, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right. Remembering General George Patton's instructions to his soldiers as they began the Battle of the Bulge 8 decades ago. Pray. Pray when fighting. Pray alone. Pray with others. Pray by night. Pray by day. Observing the birthday of the Reverend Martin Luther King, who warned, without God, our efforts turn to ashes. We, blessed citizens of this one nation under God, humbled by our claim that in God we trust, gather indeed this Inauguration Day to pray for our President Donald J. Trump, his family, his advisors, his cabinet, his aspirations, his vice president, for the Lord's blessings upon Joseph Biden, for our men and women in uniform, for each other whose hopes are stoked this new year, this Inauguration Day. We cannot err in relying upon that prayer from the Bible, upon which our president will soon place his hand in oath, as we make our own the supplications of King Solomon for wisdom as he began his governance. God of our fathers, in your wisdom you set man to govern your creatures, to govern in holiness and justice, to render justice with integrity. Give our leader wisdom, for he is your servant, aware of his own weakness and brevity of life. If wisdom which comes not from you be not with him, he shall be held in no esteem. Send wisdom from heavens, that she may be with him, that he may know your designs. Please, God, bless America. Please, mend her every flaw. You are the God in whom we trust, who lives and reigns forever and ever. Amen.
Cardinal Timothy Dolan, an amazing person. I've had a chance to spend quite a bit of time with him. He's an amazing person.
Mr. President,
great speech.
The last 4 years, there are times I'm sure you thought it was pretty dark. But look what God has done. We praise him and give him glory. Let us pray. Our Father and our God, thou hast said, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. As the prophet Daniel prayed, blessed be the name of God forever and ever. For wisdom and might are his. He changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings. He raises up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. Our Father, today, as President Donald J. Trump takes the oath of office once again, we come to say thank you, O Lord our God. Father, when Donald Trump's enemies thought he was down and out, you and you alone saved his life and raised him up with strength and power by your mighty hand. We pray for President Trump, that you'll watch over, protect, guide, direct him. Give him your wisdom from your throne on high. We ask that you would bless him and that our nation would be blessed through him. We also ask that you would bless and protect Melania as First Lady. We thank you for the beauty, the warmth, and grace that she shows not only to this nation, but to the whole world. We thank you for Vice President-elect J.D. Vance and his wife Usha and their young family. May he be a strength to President Trump, to stand beside him, to hold up his arms like Aaron held up the arms of Moses in the midst of battle. The prophet Samuel reminded the people, it was you that brought them up from the land of Egypt. And he said, now stand still, that I may reason with you before the Lord. So, Father, we take this moment to stand still, to remember the great things that you have done for this nation. Thank you for the protection, the bounty, the freedoms that we so enjoy. We remember to keep our eyes fixed on you, and may our hearts be inclined to your voice. We know that America can never be great again if we turn our backs on you. We ask for your help, and we pray all of this in the name of the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, your Son, my Savior, and our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Associate Justice Kavanaugh to administer the Vice Presidential Oath of Office.
So here we go, J.D. Vance about to take the oath first before President-elect Trump.
Oh, his boys, it looks like, or at least his oldest son, are going to come. He's the father of 3. He has 2 young boys, and his youngest is a girl.
What an amazing moment for them.
Yeah, to stand next to their father. Oh, there she is.
Carrying out his little girl. And there's Usha and what'd you call that, pink?
Yes, I would
pink
call that a
salmon?
blush pink. Mm-hmm.
Salmon?
Yes.
He's like, what do I have to do? Where
There's
am I
her
going?
Baby girl.
Oh, your father is going to become Vice President of the United States.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, James David Vance, do solemnly swear.
I, James David Vance, do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. Vice President.
There he is.
And there we have sworn in now Vice President, no longer elect. That's Vice President J.D. Vance.
So Kamala Harris is no longer Vice President of the United States. How does that feel?
You may know Vance was not his birth name. That's the name of his mother's family. He was raised by his grandfather and grandfather. He took on that name when he got married.
Oath of office.
Chief Justice Roberts. Let's see if he doesn't make the same mistake he made with Obama when Chief Justice Roberts put the word faithfully in the wrong order and then they had to redo it the following day. First time in U.S. history. Let's see if they nail it this time.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
There it is.
You have now entered the second Trump administration, folks. We enter it together. This is the moment where the Biden administration formally ends.
Hail to the chief being played. The cannons being fired. This started in 1829 under President Andrew Jackson. And it's been played ever since after the swearing in and the oath of office is read. Of course, crowds are gathered nearby and inside over at the Capital One Arena. Tens of thousands of people there awaiting President Trump to come over there and perhaps sign some executive orders.
President Trump surrounded by his wife and 5 children, his 2 boys, Ivanka, Tiffany Trump, and Barron. 3 boys, 3 boys and 2 girls.
So she has 2 Bibles in her hands there. I wonder where... We don't know the story of those Bibles yet. We'll learn about it later.
We assume the president will want to say a few words in his opening address after the congratulations, which of course are in order. Now we have their second lady, Osha Vance, standing behind next to her husband, now the Vice President, J.D. Vance.
Where the
And we just got word just a few minutes ago, President Biden, with the last few minutes of his presidency, pardoned almost his entire family, James, Frank, along with his sister Valerie, their spouses. Caitlin Collins from CNN called this an unprecedented move. Basically, all of the crimes of the Biden family given clemency. I mean, he had these documents ready to go.
Within minutes of the end of the Biden administration, the document pardons, full and unconditional pardon for James Biden, Sarah Jones Biden, Valerie Biden Owens, John T. Owens, and Francis Biden. Again, this is not the moment to discuss this. Our outrage we can put aside because this is the peaceful transition of power. The Biden administration is over. But you better believe we're going to take this on this week on Redacted.
So here's President Trump delivering his second inaugural address in just moments here. And here he goes.
Thank you very much, everybody. Well, thank you very, very much. Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. The vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end. And our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud, prosperous, and free. America will soon be greater, stronger, and far more exceptional than ever before. I return to the presidency confident and optimistic that we are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success. A tide of change is sweeping the country, sunlight is pouring over the entire world, and America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before. But first, we must be honest about the challenges we face. While they are plentiful, they will be annihilated by this great momentum that the world is now witnessing in the United States of America. As we gather today, our government confronts a crisis of trust. For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair. We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad. It fails to protect our magnificent, law-abiding American citizens, but provides sanctuary and protection for dangerous criminals, many from prisons and mental institutions that have illegally entered our country from all over the world. We have a government that has given unlimited funding to the defense of foreign borders, but refuses to defend American borders or, more importantly, its own people. Our country can no longer deliver basic services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people of North Carolina, been treated so badly. And other states who are still suffering from a hurricane that took place many months ago. Or more recently, Los Angeles, where we're watching fires still tragically burn. From weeks ago, without even a token of defense, they're raging through the houses and communities, even affecting some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in our country, some of whom are sitting here right now. They don't have a home any longer. That's interesting. But we can't let this happen. Everyone is unable to do anything about it. That's going to change. We have a public health system that does not deliver in times of disaster, yet more money is spent on it than any country anywhere in the world. And we have an education system that teaches our children to be ashamed of themselves in many cases, to hate our country despite the love that we try so desperately to provide to them. All of this will change starting today, and it will change very quickly. My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over. Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. That is why each day under our administration of American patriots, we will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. It is my hope that our recent presidential election will be remembered as the greatest and most consequential election in the history of our country. As our victory showed, the entire nation is rapidly unifying behind our agenda with dramatic increases in support from virtually every element of our society, young and old, men and women, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, urban, suburban, rural. And very importantly, we had a powerful win in all 7 swing states. And the popular vote, we won by millions of people. To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor, we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true. Thank you. Thank you. National unity is now returning to America, and confidence and pride is soaring like never before. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success. We will not forget our country. We will not forget our Constitution, and we will not forget our God. Can't do that. Today, I will sign a series of historic executive orders. With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. It's all about common sense. First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. Illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities. As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do. We will do it at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Next, I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs and prices. The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices, and that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill. America will be a manufacturing nation once again, and we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it. We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again right to the top, and export American energy all over the world. We will be a rich nation again, and it is that liquid gold under our feet that will help to do it. With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers. In other words, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice. We will build automobiles in America again at a rate that nobody could have dreamt possible just a few years ago. And thank you to the auto workers of our nation for your inspiring vote of confidence. We did tremendously with their vote. I will immediately begin the overhaul of our trade system to protect American workers and families. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service to collect all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury, coming from foreign sources. The American dream will soon be back and thriving like never before to restore competence and effectiveness to our federal government. My administration will establish the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents, something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. And we are going to bring law and order back to our cities. This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. This week, I will reinstate any service members who were unjustly expelled from our military for objecting to the COVID vaccine mandate with full back pay. And I will sign an order to stop our warriors from being subjected to radical political theories and social experiments while on duty. It's going to end immediately. Our armed forces will be free to focus on their sole mission, defeating America's enemies. Like in 2017, we will again build the strongest military the world has ever seen. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families. Thank you. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth, inspiring the awe and admiration of the entire world. A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs. President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent. He was a natural businessman and gave Teddy Roosevelt the money for many of the great things he did, including the Panama Canal, which has foolishly been given to the country of Panama after the United States. The United States, I mean, think of this, spent more money than ever spent on a project before and lost 38,000 lives in the building of the Panama Canal. We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made, and Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. Above all, my message to Americans today is that it is time for us to once again act with courage, vigor, and the vitality of history's greatest civilization. So as we liberate our nation, we will lead it to new heights of victory and success. We will not be deterred. Together we will end the chronic disease epidemic and keep our children safe, healthy, and disease-free. The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory, builds our cities, raises our expectations, and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars. Ambition is the lifeblood of a great nation. And right now, our nation is more ambitious than any other. There's no nation like our nation. Americans are explorers, builders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and pioneers. The spirit of the frontier is written into our hearts. The call of the next great adventure resounds from within our souls. Our American ancestors turned a small group of colonies on the edge of a vast continent into a mighty republic of the most extraordinary citizens on earth. No one comes close. Americans pushed thousands of miles through a rugged land of untamed wilderness. They crossed deserts, scaled mountains, braved untold dangers, won the Wild West, ended slavery, rescued millions from tyranny, lifted billions from poverty, harnessed electricity, split the atom, launched mankind into the heavens, and put the universe of human knowledge into the palm of the human hand. If we work together, there is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. Many people thought it was impossible for me to stage such a historic political comeback. But as you see today, here I am. The American people have spoken. I stand before you now as proof that you should never believe that something is impossible to do. In America, the impossible is what we do best. From New York to Los Angeles, from Philadelphia to Phoenix, from Chicago to Miami, from Houston to right here in Washington, D.C., our country was forged and built by the generations of patriots who gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom. They were farmers and soldiers, cowboys and factory workers, steel workers and coal miners, police officers and pioneers who pushed onward, marched forward, and let no obstacle defeat their spirit or their pride. Together they laid down the railroads, raised up the skyscrapers, built great highways, won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and triumphed over every single challenge that they faced. After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. With your help, we will restore America promise, and we will rebuild the nation that we love, and we love it so much. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So to every parent who dreams for their child, and every child who dreams for their future, I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We're going to win like never before. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In recent years, our nation has suffered greatly, but we are going to bring it back and make it great again, greater than ever before. We will be a nation like no other, full of compassion, courage, and exceptionalism. Our power will stop all wars and bring a new spirit of unity to a world that has been angry, violent, and totally unpredictable. America will be respected again and admired again, including by people of religion, faith, and goodwill. We will be prosperous. We will be proud. We will be strong, and we will win like never before. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not be broken, and we will not fail. From this day on, the United States of America will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. Thank you. God bless America. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Here we have it. The 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump, delivering his second inauguration, starting off by talking about the golden era of America is back. Of course, a lot of people pointing out he didn't put his hand on the Bible. And was that a sign that he had already been sworn in? May he have already been sworn in? He did the wreath-laying ceremony yesterday at Arlington National Cemetery. Was there some sort of preemptive swearing-in ceremony that happened ahead of time? This wouldn't be unprecedented. Calvin Coolidge was actually sworn in by his father, who was a notary public, and then came to Washington and was sworn in. So maybe it already happened, and maybe that's why his hand wasn't on the Bible.
But recall that the presidential pardons from Joe Biden to his family happened only 15 minutes, within 10 to 15 minutes before his inauguration, before the Trump inauguration happened. So
right.
Would those pardons then not be valid? So that's something.
Those are some questions.
Yeah, so that's something that we would have to look into.
So we'll look into all of that, but unbelievable moments there to watch as I just, was struck by President Biden, Kamala Harris not standing at all.
Oh, they stood. They stood for the hostage deal. That's the only thing that I noticed that they stood up for. Everything else, they
but
stood.
Free speech? They wouldn't stand up for free speech. We're going to support free speech. We're going to make America great again. We're going to, of course, support our United Auto Workers, the blacks and Latinos that supported me. That was amazing. And his message about Martin Luther King Jr., of course. Martin Luther King Jr., like Kamala Harris, didn't stand up and applaud for MLK's message.
We're about to see Carrie Underwood sing.
So Carrie Underwood is there about to see.
Over her.
Well, she's not singing yet, and I'm good with my eyes. I can see with my eyes when she's about to sing.
We're ready
you have to
for
put a
some
microphone.
Football,
You have to put a microphone up to your mouth in order to. And Philip is good with buttons. She's going to sing "America the Beautiful" in just a few moments here. And let's see. Let's just listen in here.
They're not currently playing audio.
Okay, so there is no
audio just yet.
All right, we're just waiting for them to send the audio feed. But
one thing that I thought that Democrats might want to stand for is when he said we're going to measure the success of our military not only by the battles we win, but by the wars we end and the wars we never get into. More proof positive that the Democrats love war, and they are the party of war, and they wanted to preserve the wars that we currently are fighting in Ukraine, in Israel, and abroad.
President Putin sent a message just a few minutes ago congratulating President Trump, and says that he looks forward to ending and making sure we prevent World War III together.
Beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, God shed his grace on
It appears she did that a cappella. If we contrast that to Jennifer Lopez's performance at the Biden inauguration, where she inserted her own little snippet of Let's Get Loud. To think back on that right now, watching Carrie Underwood just absolutely nail that, I would say is cringe. My kids wouldn't like me using that term, but I think that's a little nod to J-Lo that I can do this live, girl.
Yeah, way to go, Carrie Underwood.
I now call on Rabbi Ari Berman, Pastor Lorenzo Sewell, and Reverend Frank Mund to provide prayers of benediction.
Let us pray. Almighty God, your prophet Jeremiah walked the streets of Jerusalem and blessed its inhabitants with the Hebrew words, Baruch HaGever Asher Yiftach BaHashem. Blessed is the one who trusts in God. Thousands of years later, this great nation, which adopted these words as its motto, "In God we trust," stands at a moment of historic opportunity. Americans are searching for meaning. Our merciful Father, help us rise to meet this moment. Bless President Donald J. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance with the strength and courage to choose the right and the good. Unite us around our foundational biblical values of life and liberty, of service and sacrifice, and especially of faith and morality, which George Washington called the indispensable supports of American prosperity. Guide our schools and college campuses, which have been experiencing such unrest, to inspire the next generation to pair progress with purpose, knowledge with wisdom, and truth with virtue. Hear the cry of the hostages, both American and Israeli, whose pain our president so acutely feels. We are so thankful for the 3 young women who yesterday returned home, and pray that the next 4 years brings peace to Israel and throughout the Middle East. Almighty God, grant all Americans the opportunity to realize our shared dream of a life filled with peace and plenty, health and happiness, compassion and contribution. Stir within us the confidence to rise to this moment. For while we trust in God, God's trust is in us, the American people. America is called to greatness, to be a beacon of light and a mover of history. May our nation merit the fulfillment of Jeremiah's blessing, that like a tree planted by water, we shall not cease to bear fruit. May all of humanity experience your love and your blessing. May it be thy will, and let us say, Amen.
So it wouldn't be an American moment right now without mentioning Israel.
President, Heavenly Father, we're so grateful that you gave our 45th and now our 47th president a millimeter miracle. We are grateful that you are the one that have called him for such a time as this, that America would begin to dream again. We pray that we would fulfill the true meaning of our creed, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. We pray that you use our president, that we will live in a nation where we will not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we are so grateful today that you will use our 47th president so we would sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and because America is called to be a great nation, we believe that you will make this come true. So let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous hilltops of California, but God, we're asking you not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill in Mississippi, from every state, every city, every village, and every hamlet. And when we let freedom ring, we will be able to speed up that day where all of your children, black men and white men, Protestant and Catholic, Jew and Gentile, will be able to sing in the meaning of that old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank you, God Almighty. We are free at last. If you believe where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Come on, put your hands together and give your great God great glory.
Now that's a prayer.
Democrats very confused what to do about that. He's speaking on behalf of President Biden, but invoking the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr.
Speaking on behalf of President Trump, you mean?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Almighty and eternal God, we gather here today in reverence, joined in our shared hopes and dreams for our beloved nation. In this sacred moment of the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, we turn our hearts to you, seeking your divine assistance and abundant blessings upon this pivotal moment in history. We come before you with profound gratitude for the many gifts you have bestowed upon our land. Thank you for the freedoms we cherish, for the strength of our communities, and for the resilience of our spirit. As our President and Vice President embrace their newly appointed roles, we humbly implore that your everlasting love and wisdom will envelop them. Grant them the clarity of mind to navigate the challenges that lie ahead, and the compassion to serve all citizens with fairness and integrity. May their hearts be filled with a giving spirit and sincere understanding for those whom they represent. May they be beacons of hope in times of uncertainty and prophetic voices in defending the dignity of all created life. We pray for a spirit of collaboration to flourish in our government and across our nation, fostering an environment where dialogue and heartfelt listening will prevail over division or discord. May each decision made by our President and Vice President reflect the values of justice and peace. As we embark on this new chapter, we also seek your comfort, O God, for those who feel lost or disheartened. In this time of transition, may your light shine upon them, reaffirming their belief in a brighter tomorrow. May we all strive to lift one another, supporting our fellow citizens with kindness and empathy, recognizing that together we can overcome any adversity. Grant us the strength to endure, the courage to face our fears, and the clarity to see the light that remains, even when clouds of uncertainty may gather. Inspire our new leaders to be champions for the vulnerable and advocates for those whose voices are often silenced. May they pursue policies that promote the well-being of all, seeking to build bridges that will foster unity and belonging. As we stand witness to this inauguration, we hold fast to our faith in the goodness of each of us and the possibility of change. We trust that with your guidance, O God, our nation can move forward to a future filled with promise, prosperity, and understanding. And finally, we lift our hearts in gratitude for the beloved parents of President Trump. Without Mary and Fred Trump, this day would never be the miracle that has just begun. From their place in heaven, may they shield their son from all harm by their loving protection, and give him the strength to guide our nation along the path that will make America great again. Let us go forth now with these words of President Trump's emblazoned on our hearts. As long as we have pride in our beliefs, courage in our convictions, and faith in our God, then we will not fail. We stand tall, we stand proud, because we are Americans, and Americans kneel to God, and to God alone. Amen.
Reverend Frank
Ladies
Mann.
and gentlemen, please remain
third.
standing for our national anthem.
All right. Before President Trump walks down over to the Capital One Arena, sign some executive orders.
Can you say, by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose blood stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight of the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket and glee, the bombs bursting in earth, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sailors at first taken,
So whatever audio issues they may have had for Carrie Underwood were worked out. And Mr. Macchio.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
So a couple of things from the speech, President Trump announcing a number of big kind of bombshells that the policy of the United States government going forward, that there will be only two genders in the United States, male and female, the official policy of the United States government, that the national auto workers who really came out and supported President Trump were shot. I mean, he got a big part of the speech talking about the national auto workers. We're going to build cars back in the United States at a record level that you've never seen before.
Revoke the Biden electric vehicle mandate, saying you can now buy whatever car you want, and those cars will in fact be made in the United States. I also found it shocking the designation of Mexican drug cartels and South American drug cartels as foreign terrorists, and he will indeed send the military to the southern border immediately post post haste.
Troops to the southern border. I mean, it's something that the United States has a rich history of actually sending troops to our southern border for like over 100 years. We had troops at our southern border. So this is not like unprecedented. In fact, I'd rather have our troops here instead of the 50,000 of them that are, of course, in the Middle East right now as cannon fodder and sitting ducks there.
He says all illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions of illegal aliens to the place from which they came. That is a quote. And he will reinstate the remain in Mexico and end the process of catch and release that has been so rampant under the Biden administration, has led to the United States losing track of 300,000 unaccompanied children. We know that's a conservative number.
Oh, yeah, probably much higher than that.
Yes, by many orders of magnitude. So the trafficking at the human border, the drug trafficking at the human border, that is something that the Trump administration will now set its sights on. Panama
Canal. We're taking the Panama Canal back. Something he talked about Theodore Roosevelt, of course, putting in place the Panama Canal when France and the UK were able to do it. The United States was able to pull it off at great loss of life, of course. We handed it back to Panama under Jimmy Carter, and it's been basically handed over to China. He said, we're taking it back. No mention. I didn't hear him mention Greenland at all, though we did talk about Mars. We're going to go to Mars. This is sort of a JFK moment. We're going to put a man on the moon before the end of this decade. So I know Elon Musk was excited about going to Mars, that we're going to put Americans are going to plant a flag. Now, I don't know if I guess he did say American astronauts going to Mars and planting a flag there.
Now, shall we talk about the tone? Because his first inauguration speech, Democrats called Hell and Fury. Hillary Clinton, in her biography called What Happened, called it undimmed fury. I don't see that as the tone of this speech at all.
No.
I feel like this was a reclamation of the American spirit. He talked about the spirit of the frontier, the spirit of innovation, doing business with the world and not starting wars. He says he wants January 20th, 2025 to be Liberation Day for all American citizens. I found it more positive than not if we're comparing and contrasting the two speeches.
I find it hard to believe, if you didn't like this speech, I would almost think you'd be un-American, because what did he champion? Almost a laundry list of things specifically are in the United States Constitution. Freedom of speech, freedom to make sure that the government is not censoring you. He's going to sign an executive order. That's where he's heading right now. He's heading over to Capital One Arena, where, according to Michelle Baucus, who was there just a short time ago, there's a table set up, a podium where the president is expected to sign well over 100 executive orders, one of which will be stopping government censorship of Americans. So you're pushing freedom of speech,
freedom of business,
freedom of
entrepreneurialism, freedom to choose whatever car you want to buy, freedom to
have a government that protects you. He talked about the wildfires, and the United States government has been a failure to protect its citizens. He wants to be a president of peace. He said, I want to end these wars.
He wants to reinstate military members who were fired for rejecting the vaccine mandate with full back pay. That means freedom to not take forced medicine if you don't want to. Freedom of bodily choice, right?
Yeah, so I find it hard. I'm trying to wrap my head around. He praised the support of Latinos and Black Americans, and he says, I will work to fulfill Martin Luther King's dream of equality in the United States. What is there to, I'm sorry, I just don't understand what there is to dislike. He's going to close the border to protect the United States, declaring a southern emergency on the southern border.
He says he wants to address the inflation crisis that was caused by massive overspending. That's something we have screamed ourselves hoarse about here on Redacted, is that our lives as American citizens cannot be made better unless government pulls back spending, because that has led to inflation. Full stop. It's an oversimplification. Absolutely, that's the truth. But we cannot see our way out of the inflationary crisis if the government continues to spend. He says that's why today I will declare a national emergency by saying that we will drill, baby, drill, in order to allow Americans to have affordable energy, in order to expand our economy with our own work.
J.R. Rich in our chat says, I'm a Canadian and I'm in awe.
Your day's coming. Your turn's coming.
Yeah, your turn is coming soon.
Now you have to make a choice similarly.
What about the drones? Someone says. Yeah, I mean, someone in the chat just a moment ago saying, I think Sawa, Alex, I'm sorry, I forget who you said that the first inauguration speech was pro-American as well. Yeah, so I think just the tone may be different. I don't know.
I'm comparing it to media coverage. I apologize. That's not maybe my own opinion. What I am interested in is what will liberals say in order to work against this agenda. And what liberals had said after the first speech was that it was hell and fury. Again, Hillary Clinton said that she was sitting near the bushes and that George Bush had said, wow, that was some weird SH. That it was overly nationalistic, that it was that's the kind of thing that they come for.
That's what should happen today. So, I want to hear about America. I want to hear about America. It is about America. It's the American presidential inauguration. That's what this is. It's all about America today. I don't want these other people getting up there. I don't want to hear about, I'm sorry, can I have one day where I don't have to hear about Israel? Just please.
No.
Is it possible? I mean, even at the RNC, for crying out loud, we had people coming up trying to chant, holding up Israeli flags, and the crowd was like, this is a U.S. RN presidential, convention for the Republic.
Right. What other flag did we even have?
Do you want to? How many other flags do we need up? No. This is about America, full stop. Someone in the chat earlier said when I made that comment, like, Redacted is divisive. I'm divisive because I want it to be America first at a presidential inauguration at the United States Capitol. That's divisive? Sorry. Then sorry, I don't know what world you live in. But anyway, America seems to be back. There seems to be an excitement about this. Let's take a live look here. Here is what was Marine One. Now it's no longer Marine One.
Is that part
but this is a helicopter, of course, that will take Joe Biden out of Washington, D.C. I believe it'll be called, I forget the name of it now. Can someone look this up for me? It's no longer Marine One, which is when the official designation by the United States Air Force for when a president is on board. I think it's called, it's not Marine Two, because that'd be the vice president's.
No, Marine Two is for the vice president.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I forget what they call it, or they just call it a helicopter. It's called a helicopter.
Biden's ride.
Yeah, it's not Marine One. It's the designation of the president of the United States when they're on board is Marine One. So it's the same aircraft that takes them away, but it's no longer has that designation. So someone said medevac in our chat. Geezer one. I like that. Medevac, though, is great. Pedo one. Loser one. Chop chop. Yeah. Not sure. No one seems to know, but I'm gonna go. I like medevac. That's pretty good.
And I do like seeing a clergy member from various religious faiths. That I think is fine. It's the specific mentioning of a foreign state in our presidential inauguration, which should give us all pause, no matter what that state is. We didn't have any call outs to Mozambique. Right?
Or Russia.
Yeah. Why did that happen? That's the question that we're going to need to ask ourselves as moving forward during the second Trump administration.
I know, and I saw a lot of people in our comments. I mean, a lot of people in our comments are like, get this guy off. Can we please not hear about Israel today on a presidential inauguration? So regardless of where you feel about it, again, I don't want to hear about Israel during an American presidential inauguration. You can F off. I don't want to hear about Russia. I don't want to hear about Mexico. I don't want to hear. It's about making America great again. That's what today is all about. As a student of American history, that's why I got out of bed this morning, because I'm excited about America, not about hearing about Israel or the borders around Israel. I do not care today.
One thing that the president did mention was that he wants to be a peacemaker and a unifier. He says, that's what I want to be known for, is a peacemaker and a unifier. So in terms of our relationship with other countries, being that in the world, okay, then we don't need to mention any one place. That's for us all. Why are you squinting like that?
I'm trying to read the chat over there. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm not squinting at you. When I look at you, my eyes are wide. Mm-hmm. I don't squint at you. When I look at you, I'm just like in awe.
I only have
no
eyes
squinting
for you.
I don't squint when I look at you. I'm just like, wow, that's my wife. She's beautiful. There's no squinting.
Okay.
I have my contacts are in, and it's so dry here in the Rocky Mountains, and it's freezing outside, and so like -4 degrees. It's very high up here in the mountains.
I can't tell. I've been sort of shaking all morning if I'm just excited, this is an exciting day, or if I'm freezing. I might be a little bit of both. I've got high energy running through us. We have more election coverage, inauguration coverage coming for you from this Redacted special coverage. Before we do that, though, we want to make sure that we tell you that this special coverage is brought to you by our friends over at Ramp because, again, it's January 2025. If you have your sights set on growing your business, then you need to check out Ramp. You can simplify your business finances with Ramp and make sure that you close the books in just a few days after the month ends. By going to ramp.com/redacted, you can get $250 off when you join. They give you control of all of your spending, automate all of your business cards. You can issue employee cards and start to set limits on them. Track where your money is going so you can make sure you know how your money and your company is going to grow. We really appreciate their coverage of this show. Once again, it's ramp.com/redacted. Simplify your business finances. You don't need to work like that with your receipts all over the place. Instead, work like that with all your charts beautifully simplified, easy to read, easy to get control of where your money's going so that you can grow it. One more time, that's ramp.com/redacted. And we thank them so much for their support of this special Inauguration Day coverage, everybody.
Nursing Home 1. We're still trying to figure out what Marine 1, the designation for. Is it I think it's Marine. I think it's Nursing Home 1.
I'm just interested in the Mars mission thing because so you get a launch window for Mars. I think the next one is in 2026. And then after that, it's in like 2028. But like you can only really go there every so often because it has to be when it like the perfect point. And so a mission like that takes a really long time to plan. So I wonder if he's talking about getting that mission started, because I don't think it's anywhere feasible that we're going to put people on Mars in the next 4 years. That's
no, I mean, millions of kilometers, right? 250 million miles away, 400 million kilometers to Mars. And it takes about 6 to 9 months to fly there. And you'd have to, you're right, Philip. You'd have to find the exact moment, the window to get there. So I guess 2026 would be, we're nowhere near ready for that yet. Maybe Elon Musk thinks we're ready.
I've been thinking about this all weekend, the things that have been, But for instance, who's been drafting these executive orders? There have had to be rock solid legal teams doing that because he's on his way now to the arena to sign that in front of a large crowd of thousands of supporters. The Democrats have said they're ready to litigate against those things. The gender law, the military at the border. There's a million things that liberals are ready to take him to court over, these executive orders. They have had to have been drafted by a pretty hardcore, full stop, bulletproof legal team who's been doing that, right? There's things that happen behind the scenes that we don't know. So,
and also we don't know. Just a few moments ago, right as President Trump took the oath, they immediately filed lawsuits against Trump already. There's a series of lawsuits against Doge for under FACA for transparent, because Elon Musk, right, is South African. Yeah. So immediately there's already lawsuits that have been filed against President Trump within moments of him putting his hand. Well, actually, he didn't even put his hand on the Bible. So there's a lot of questions. Did he already get sworn in ahead of time? Maybe last night, and already take the oath of office. So there's wondering whether or not did he do it when he laid the wreath at Arlington National Cemetery. He did that ceremony yesterday. So it was already. Let's take a look here. Here's President Biden getting on board this Marine helicopter, which is no longer called Marine 1, because the President of the United States has to be on board for it to be called Marine 1.
The Trumps seeing them off.
Saying goodbye. Pack up your stuff. Let's see if he's helped up the steps one last time as President Biden departs Washington, D.C. And will he be back at any point? It's hard to say. Let's see if he does the turnaround and wave, the Nixon wave. I'm not a crook. He's out of there. And let's just watch this helicopter take off. This is an unbelievable moment.
Sure is.
This was the new Marine 1 helicopter that was just put into service recently under President Biden. The old one that had been used for many, many years was retired.
And now we see side to side our new President and Vice President, J.D. Vance, watching the departure of President Biden, now former President Biden, 46th President of the United States, departing Washington for the last time.
Now, as many of you know, inaugurals were traditionally held on the east front of the Capitol, where you see the president and the helicopter sitting right now. And that was until 1985 and 1981. And Ronald Reagan moved it to the west. Looking west was one of the themes of his first inaugural. And it's
So David was asking, can a vice president and the president of the United States be on board helicopters simultaneously? I mean, they can do whatever they want, but I think under the Secret Service rules, they're really never supposed to fly together. They're never supposed to be on Air Force One together simultaneously. They're not supposed to be on board Marine One simultaneously. They really always want to try to keep them separate. Obviously, we saw what happened in Iran last year with the downing of that helicopter in the mountains that was shot down. So this is something people have been very concerned about. Of course, any sort of these weapons. We've heard reports of shoulder-fired rockets that have gotten loose in the United States with our wide-open border policies. So the last thing you want is both the president and the vice president on board one singular helicopter flying away from the White House. That's for sure.
So we have a few hours yet until the inauguration parade begins at 3:30, where the president says he will go to Capitol Arena. He will sign executive orders. The number being reported between 100 and 200 executive orders that his fans will
let's talk
want
about
to
it.
watch.
Let's talk about those executive orders. So what you're watching here is President Biden leaving Washington for the last time as on his day of being a president, no longer president of the United States, now ex-president of the United States, former president of the United States, leaving Washington, D.C., and, of course, heading home to Delaware. And it'll be interesting to see if he ever comes back to Washington, D.C. But let's talk about those executive orders, because a number of things he's expected to sign today: border on the United States border, declaring a state of emergency at the U.S. southern border. He's going to also affirm censorship laws for the United States, making sure that the government cannot censor.
Anti-censorship.
Anti-censor. He's going to also put in place a reversal of the Inflation Reduction Act. He even talked about that during his speech today. It was a great disaster. He mentioned he's going to do a reversal to see like President Biden's face and Kamala Harris, that multi-trillion-dollar boondoggle for Democratic donors, basically, is going to be reversed. So a lot of those companies that got all that money, get ready to have that money pulled out from underneath you.
If you head on over to whitehouse.gov right now, you see it has been transitioned to the Trump administration. Just hours ago, if you went to whitehouse.gov, it was championing the accomplishments of the Biden administration, or the things that they call accomplishments: the Inflation Reduction Act, the EV mandates, all of the things that Joe Biden has said. It will take time to see them come into effect. Well, President Trump has now said he will undo most of those policies. And now if you head on over to whitehouse.gov, it has in fact been transitioned to the Trump administration.
Oh.
Go ahead.
No, we missed it. That's all right.
What did we miss?
We missed the $2 super chats from Fatty McButterpants, and I love that we got a $2 super chat from Fatty McButterpants just as President Biden is leaving in a helicopter. It was just perfect. Fatty McButterpants, thank you for your $2 super chat. I appreciate it.
I believe the X account now of POTUS will revert to Donald Trump as well. You may recall that when Joe Biden won the presidency, he wanted all of the Twitter followers that Donald Trump had, and X, at the time it was Twitter, had said, no, you only get the POTUS followers. You don't also get his. So now if you go to @White-House, that is also run by the Trump administration. Donald Trump obviously back on X as well, but he has his own followers.
Liberals, of course, attacking the speech and pointing out weird inconsistencies, calling attention to J.D. Vance's daughter. Why did she have 3 Band-Aids on her fingers? Like, is that a failure of parenting?
You know what I think that is? Because I'm a mom of little ones too. That looks to me like a door injury. You know how scared I am of the little fingers in doors?
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Looks to me like she reached. It's full conjecture, but as a mom, I'm always like, we don't play with doors. Seems to me, but no, I don't think that's a parenting failure. All kids need Band-Aids. In fact, there's a Jewish Talmud saying called "the blessings of a skinned knee kids have to have Band-Aids. They have to get hurt in order to learn in the world.
All right, so we had the farewell ceremony for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris just moments ago in Washington, and flying on board what was formerly Marine One. Here's a live look at Washington, D.C. It is frigid there right now. Frigid in Washington, D.C. So many of the participants, of course, are over at there. It is Capital One Arena, and you can see over 20,000 standing room only participants who came to watch at Capital One Arena to watch the ceremony. They were booing and cheering as different people made it into the rooms, like Barack Obama and Bill Clinton got big boos. So did Mike Pence when they saw him on the screen there. President Trump is expected to go over to Capital One Arena and say hello to all of the folks there. He might give another speech, but he's expected to sign a number of executive orders there at a podium in Capital One Arena. And that's going to be a pretty impressive moment to see. So all of those people that thought they might not get to see the president today because of the cold weather and the moving indoors are now going to get to see their own show. It's like going to a whole separate concert, basically. Yeah. President Trump is going to go over there. No word on how many inaugural balls are we going to see today. Under Bill Clinton, we saw the most ever in U.S. history. I wonder if we're going to see fewer than we saw the first time around from President Trump. How many will be celebrated throughout Washington?
It must be exhausting. It must be really exhausting.
I know. To me, if I was just sworn in, I'd be like, okay, can we go sign all these executive orders, and I'm going to go have some lunch. And,
right.
And I don't need to go dancing for the rest of the afternoon and partying and.
In fact, I was invited to Zero, and I'm pretty happy about it. I'm going to get into some PJs and watch the news for the rest of the day.
We were invited. Redacted was invited to go to the presidential inauguration, but we decided to do it from our own studio today and be here with all of you. So we decided not to go to Washington, D.C. for this on this day. So we decided it'd be better here in the studio. We could do coverage that way. And we have some special guests going to be joining us here in a second. And Stoops the Cat wants to know, why didn't he put his hand on the Bible? So that is a good question. And there is some speculation because that Bible was the one on top was his mother's Bible. And the one below it, I don't know which order they were, one of them was Abraham Lincoln's Bible. So there is some word that he might have perhaps, I don't know, been sworn in early. Not really sure. All right. We want to bring in Dr. Steve Turley, who's been watching all of these events unfold today and all of the things that have been happening behind the scenes with these pardons and the drama that was dropped right as President Biden was about to go out of office, pardons for his family. Doctor, good to see you. Welcome into the show. Just sort of get your reaction to the speech right now first before we get into some of the details.
Oh, it was an absolutely amazing speech. I mean, in many respects, MAGA has gone civilizationalist. This is not 2017 anymore. You know, this is the nationalist frames of reference of border security, economic security, and cultural security are all there. That's actually how he's framing the EOs around those dynamics. But now bringing in the Panama Canal, I think there was, of course, the subtext of Greenland, of just creating a North American civilizationalist world that is completely and totally self-sufficient, is now going to take its place in the rising world of the orthosphere around Russia and the Sinosphere of China and the Indosphere of India. It's astonishing. We're literally watching the liberal international order collapse right before our very eyes. And we had the joy of having Biden have to sit there and endure it.
Right. I mean, I don't think most of us think that he really understood it. He just knew he was being ushered out the door. What is your take on his announcement that for American citizens, today is Liberation Day? I mean, we can extrapolate that to be liberated from so many things. Myself personally, I'm excited to be able to say there are two genders, that my children will be free from ideology in their schools, that we will no longer be censored. But I just gave you a bunch of answers of what it means to me. What do you think it means to you and the American people?
Yeah, you gave me some multiple choice there. All of the above, right? Well, I mean, globalism is predicated on a contradiction. So globalism, in effect, says through our system, this one-size-fits-all political and economic system, you are all freer than you've ever been, and globalism is inevitable. There's nothing you can do about it. So it's like, well, which one is, am I truly free or am I imprisoned to this system that's going to be superimposed upon all cultures, regardless of whether they want it or not? And most do not want it for the very reasons you just delineated there. So I think in the end, bottom line is that you are now free from this managerial elite that are dead set on imposing, even through wars and all kinds of acts of aggression, through this kind of crusader mentality. You are now free from this managerial elite. You'll often hear this term in conservative Catholic academies called Aristopopulism. Patrick Deneen uses it quite a bit. And it is an Aristotelian concept where you're always going to have an elite. You're always going to have your top 1%, 2%, no matter what. You're even going to have your elite socialist, for heaven's sake. You can't get rid of an elite. But the elite have to be aligned with the values, interests, and concerns of the vast majority of the people. Otherwise, you have an oligarchy that despises the people and wants them to eat cake, or you have a people that rises up and cuts the head off of the oligarchy, and then you've got mob rule. The ideal social order is to have an elite that use their power and their affluence to enact the values, interests, and concerns of the people. That's exactly what we saw there with Trump, with Elon, with JD. They're all part of the new tech right that's emerging and the like. And I think that's what Trump is saying. We are now being emancipated, liberated from an elite that despises the people, that hate the people, that actually they side with the criminal, and then they crack down legalistically on the law-abiding. You are now liberated from that. Those days are over, and man, does it feel good, especially here in D.C., which is votes 95% Democrat. I get to walk around the streets strutting here with my MAGA hat on, go and say, this is our town now, baby.
Do you feel that, though? And of course, the swamp is deep, very, very deep. Yeah. And one of the criticisms of President Trump during the first go-around was that the swamp wasn't drained properly, that there were too many people that affixed themselves sort of like moray eels or, these creatures that sort of stuck themselves to the backs of it. Do you feel that there is going to be a draining this time in the swamp? Is there a sense among your D.C. compatriots there that they're going to be kicked out?
There is. It's not 2017 again. Think about it, Clayton. When he came in originally, he was literally all alone. He had no political alliance in this city. Paul Ryan laughed at him, right? Mitchell laughed at him. Ted Cruz hated him. Ted Cruz wouldn't even endorse him at the Republican National Convention, right? The RNC
we
didn't
had
know
Reince
really what
Priebus. Where'd that guy go?
Reince.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't know what to do with him. They figured he's probably one and done. This guy's not going to get reelected, so I got to be careful here and hedge my bets. No, you got it. Glenn Beck was railing against him every day on his radio station. He had no friends. He was doing it all alone. And then think about what he was able to accomplish with that kind of adversity. And then, of course, with all of the craziness with the special counsels around him and the impeachments and all of that nonsense. Now he's coming in with a literal army. He literally, what is so cool, we were talking about this earlier on our live stream, what is so fascinating, if you think it through, the Democrats threw everything they have at him. Everything. Literally everything. Again, from the special counsels, impeachments, indictments, FBI raids, felonies. They want to imprison him, as he said today, and then tried to kill him twice. That's what we know of, right? They threw everything at him. But what was the calculus? Did he get weaker like they wanted to, or did he get stronger? He got strong every strike, and that's the calculus. The more they threw everything, and then the last thing they had, of course, was election fraud. And look what happened. It was the very fact that they threw everything at him and he only got stronger meant that he amassed a coalition that was too big to rig. and finally defeated them there. So I don't think he's coming in like a Caesar, like when he walks into the UFC fights. I mean, he's coming into an arena like a triumphant Caesar. And I think the Democrats are ridiculously deflated and despondent right now and leaderless and so forth, as is the deep state itself. We're seeing already mass resignations, which is a kind of self-deportation, ironically, from the city. And I just think it's a very new day. And ironically, if he had won in 2020, within 10 minutes of him taking the oath of office, people would have declared him a lame duck. He's irrelevant, and they would have already been talking about the 2024 election. The very fact that he's coming in here stronger than ever, more politically powerful than Reagan was, suggests here that the first tenure was just a warm-up. It was literally just sort of a dress rehearsal. This is the real thing, and I think he's ready to dismantle the deep state like we haven't seen in 70 years.
But what liberals are not standing for in his speech are the things that liberals used to be for. They did not stand when he said he wants to end foreign wars and not start new ones. That was Obama's promise. That's the reason so many people supported Obama. He wants to stand against censorship. Again, that's something liberals stood for. Michael Schellenberger
freedom of speech.
reporting that he wants to pause all offshore wind leases, which could save the whales. That was liberals' thing. They loved the whales. Now they hate freedom, they love war, and they hate whales.
They hate whales.
How are we in this bizarro world, right? I mean, does this not strike you? Every day I'm like, these were liberal things. I stayed with the tenets, but now I'm not a liberal because of it.
It's insane. Think about we could even go farther. Because of all this woke insanity, feminists are now far right. Let that hit you.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, so people like was it Jillian Michaels, for example, or who am I forgetting? The swimmer. Why am I forgetting her name? But
Riley Gaines.
Riley Gaines. Thank you.
Riley Gaines. Even Martina Navratilova, who is a feminist, right? Even though she hates Trump. It appears that he has.
I think we lost Dr. Turley's signal there. I want to get him back and talk about pardons here in a second here.
Oh, yes.
While we wait for Dr. Turley to come back, let's check in at the U.S. Capitol. President Trump speaking once again with J.D. Vance alongside Speaker Mike Johnson.
Of political thugs, where they literally, what they did is they destroyed and deleted all of the information, all of the hearings, practically not a thing left. They deleted all the information on Nancy Pelosi having turned down the offer of 10,000 soldiers. You wouldn't have needed 10,000. You could have had 500, and it would have stopped. Because we may have a million people that day, the people that were there. You don't see any photographs, but we have a lot of great photos. But you don't see those photographs. They don't put them in. They show the people at the Capitol.
We got Dr. Turley back. We're listening to President Trump, Doctor. He's talking about January 6th.
Talking about how Nancy Pelosi, stood down troops in order to prevent any kind of violence.
He's also talking about these executive
orders. The unraveling. Yep. Yeah, this is the unraveling of it. This is the beginning. He brought it up in his speech. They're already suffering from a crisis of legitimacy. Delegitimization ultimately is what's killing globalism. Nobody buys it anymore. Nobody trusts it. The confidence is gone. And what he's doing now is he's hammering at that delegitimization, increasing it, growing it, so that you can bring in an alternative, which is MAGA.
On the right side of your screen is President Joe Biden, former President Joe Biden, leaving at Joint Base Andrews Air Force Base as Executive 1 just touched down, and he is leaving Washington, D.C., I guess heading back to Delaware. But, of course, we wanted to ask you about these pardons, Doctor, because over the past 24 hours, we've seen some pretty incredible pardons from President Biden, including General Mark Milley, Anthony Fauci. We've also seen a list of his family members being pardoned in as well, and just some remarkable pardons that I'm just curious to get your take on. I think did we lose Dr. Turley again?
It appears that we did.
Okay. All right, so you had a bad connection there. We'll see if we can get him back. But yeah, these pardons, I mean, we can just talk about, these are unbelievable within the last few hours of his presidency. And Dr. Fauci was asked about the pardon this afternoon. What did you think about it? And he said, I feel great about it. Thank you so much.
Like, kind of nice. It feels nice. Thank you.
Sort of blanket immunity, so I'm not exactly sure what this will do. And I guess we can look at constitutional lawyers to figure out what's going to happen there with these pardons going forward. But
yes. And again, those have not been tested in court, because no specific crime has been committed. And normally a pardon is issued after someone has served the time for those issues.
Dr. Turley is back. So we were just asking you about the pardons here. Just get your take on, we saw a raft of them, General Mark Milley, Anthony Fauci, and then just as President Trump was being sworn in, Biden issued a pardon for his whole family as well. I mean, it's basically, is this an admission that they're all criminals? Oh, man. But keep losing Dr. Turley.
Yeah, we spoke earlier about how the bandwidth in D.C. must just be getting hammered at this point. So let's appreciate for his time.
Okay. Let's listen into President Trump, who's speaking right now.
I actually had a friend saying, please don't change that, sir. You are the coolest sucker in history. Remember, she said, I put my hands around his neck because he wouldn't go to the Capitol. Made up fiction. And I was rebuffed. And the guy on the right is a massive weightlifter, probably stronger than me. Do you think he's stronger than me, honey? You know who I'm talking. Possibly stronger than me. Slightly younger than me, like, I won't say how many years because I don't want to talk about that, but a lot of years. But I had a friend that said, why are you disputing that story? That's the coolest story I've ever heard. That I would attack a karate champion, get slightly rebuffed, and then throw my arms around a guy with a neck about this big. Even though there are bars, there are bars, you can't really do that anyway. So I wanted to talk about that. But all of that stuff got deleted. And the reason it got deleted is they were all caught in lies. Secret Service testified, and they said it didn't happen. Actually, the two guys were very embarrassed. They're suffering because their friends are saying, did Trump really do that to you? But they gained a whole new respect for me. But it was just make-believe stuff, and there were a lot of make-believe stories made up. So rather than suffer the wrath, like the story with Nancy Pelosi, I offered her 10,000 soldiers. She knows it. She admitted it on tape that her daughter made. She's a videographer or whatever you call her, which I'm glad she is. Oh, she can't be in good stead with Nancy. But Nancy said it was my responsibility as she's leaving the Capitol. She said it was, and it was. She's in charge of security at the Capitol. But I offered them up to 10,000 soldiers, even more. One time I said more, as many as you need. But you needed 400 or 500. If 4 or 5, you 10,000, that would be more than the number of people there by lot. But we offered her 10,000. Think of it, 10,000 soldiers. In other words, J6 wouldn't be J6. There would have been no J6. But she rebuffed them. She didn't like it. No, she didn't like it. Maybe she wanted that to happen. But she's guilty as hell. And now we would have to go through the process because they destroyed all evidence. They deleted everything. There's virtually nothing left. The other fake story and so many other fake stories. And many people came out on our side. And those people now would got to find them. There's nothing left. So that's a criminal offense. If that were a civil case, it would be a criminal offense. If that happened civilly where you did that, it would be a criminal offense. So I decided I'm not going to make this speech complicated. I'm going to make it beautiful. I'm going to make it a unifying speech. And then when they said we have a group of people that are serious Trump fans, I said, this is the time to tell those stories. He knows. So anyway, but seriously, I'd like to, I think it was a tremendous success. I think we're very lucky we put it inside because it is really cold. We just went to the helicopter out of respect. It's something that's taken place for a long time. I guess it's as old as helicopters. You used to get into a stagecoach, now you get into a helicopter. Times change. But it's pretty old custom. And it's a beautiful custom, actually. It's a beautiful custom. I wish we could have had a better relationship. I wish we could have had a better relationship between Republicans and Democrats. I was with Senator Schumer. I said, Chuck, I think it's time we all start getting along a little bit because it doesn't make sense. I mean, we literally never get a Democrat vote. They never get a Republican vote, almost. And although there is a bill coming up very shortly that we have a lot of Democrat votes, right? That's going to be a very beautiful bill. We're going to have a deciding, I would say, within a week or so, I think. And it's going to be a very good bill. You all know what I'm talking about. So I just want to thank you all for being here. You have been our fans from day one, all these people all over. You've been our fans.
All right, President Trump there giving another speech, one of many speeches today. There at the Capitol, thanking participants who managed to show up. We want to bring in Hunter Gaylor, who is want to speak now about really what this on the economy front, and bring in Hunter here from D.C. as well. I think we have him here. Let's bring him in here. Yeah, there we go. Hi, Hunter. Welcome into the show. Thanks so much for joining us. I wanted to talk about the economy. Let's talk about some of the things that really hit home on that front from you with the president's speech today on the things that matter most to Americans right now. Obviously, inflation, a big driver of why President Trump is now the 47th president of the United States.
Well, first of all, it was an incredible speech. This was the Trump that I know. This was the 2016 Trump that I know. And what it's going to mean for the economy, and he hit it, it's drill, baby, drill. And if we can really get true American energy independence, you're going to see this market soar. America First policy is what it's about. It's about sovereignty and it's about independence. We could talk about freedom and all of these great things, but when it comes to the economy and what moves the markets and what he's going to do with Treasury and the Fed, and the fact that he said coming out that we're going to have not an internal revenue service, but an external revenue service to get these countries to start paying their fair share if they want to participate in one of the greatest capitalistic systems and experiments, really, the United States that's ever existed in known history. So I think it's going to be a roaring economy. I really believe in the idealistic values of the capitalistic conservative principles on energy first, American first. And as Trump said, we've been being ripped off as a country for long enough. And Trump's, as his speech said, he's been here, he's done it before, now he's back. And very few presidents get a chance to get a second chance, and this is his second chance, and I think he's going to hit the ground running. So I was very inspired by some of those words.
Well, one of the things he said is that we have the largest energy resources in the world, and we are going to use it. The reason previous presidents have not been able to is because environmentalists litigate, and they have to fight them in court. So even though President Biden spoke out of both sides of his mouth saying he wanted to preserve the environment and not drill, but then he did want an economy, so he did. He didn't seem to know what his policy was. How do you think a second Trump administration is going to thwart these efforts, these litigations in court? How are we going to be able to do this? Is the what is he called, the national emergency enough?
Well, it's a very good point. And I think a lot of your viewers will understand the fact that, Trump is a chess player, right? He's very smart. He's very shrewd. Renaming the Gulf of Mexico is brilliant. In my opinion, I think, listen, as patriotic as it may sound, we had a drilling moratorium and offshore drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. We don't have an offshore drilling in the Gulf of America. We don't have a moratorium on drilling in the Gulf of America. So, if you think of it from an actual contractual perspective, it makes a lot of sense. Look, my company, we have holdings in oil and gas, so I love it. I think it's fantastic. And we do. We have more known reserves in America than Saudi Arabia. And look at what they're building. Gigacities, Neom, Jeddah, Riyadh, Dubai. Look at what they've been able to do with oil. So if we can really unleash that here, it's going to be incredible.
Let's talk about the Inflation Reduction Act. We heard some of these executive orders that President Trump is about to sign looks to be undoing this massive Inflation Reduction Act, which I don't know about you, but I don't think that it reduced inflation at all. It was just a boondoggle for Democrats.
It was a spending bill.
It was a spending bill.
100%. It's money laundering through the Democratic Party through the taxpayer. That's what they're doing. And so at the end of the day, if Trump goes in today and he signs it, I hope one of those executive orders is to basically, recorrect the path, because look at what's going on in the market. Massive sell-offs. The Democrats are doing everything they possibly can to throw Trump under the bus. And leave them with, a lot of mess to clean up. We saw that in California. But with regards to the Inflation Reduction Act, they just need to stop printing money. I mean, that's what needs to happen. They need to stop doing this quantitative easing baloney, and they need to get back to increasing our GDP. That's the scariest part of this whole thing. Our GDP growth our GDP is a little over 21 trillion-ish right now. So the percentage growth per year is about 2.3% right now. We need to increase that to like 4, 5, 6% per year because in order to even compete with China. China's growth rate for GDP right now is about 5 to 6% annually. So, I hope he signs these executive orders and taxes the heck out of all of these other countries that have been ripping us off.
What about the Green New Deal? He also talked about undoing that boondoggle as well.
Revoking EV mandates, giving consumer choice again. That's obviously exciting to the automakers who have been hurting so much in order to comply with President Biden's electric vehicle mandates.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, as a business person, I look at from an American First policy perspective, they need to get rid of these ridiculous mandates. The Green New Deal is a sham. It's another money laundering activity. None of this works. I mean, you have Tesla charging stations that are being fueled by diesel. I mean, this is ridiculous. So the whole wind, solar, all this other stuff, what these Democrats care about the planet, don't understand science. They don't understand business. I mean, look, if anyone wants a masterclass, go ahead. I'm not endorsing watching the show, but I mean, watch Landman. I mean, that gives you a crash course on all things oil and gas. Forget the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is just another burden on the American taxpayer to try to offset stupid Democratic policies. And just to give, the viewing audience a history fact here, look at when Barack Obama was in office. He had a multi-billion-dollar failure to the likes of Enron, and it was called Solyndra. Does anyone remember Solyndra? That whole, solar panel thing? And they ran that into the ground. Mm-hmm. So if that gives you any idea on how these people think they know how to run business, Donald Trump is an actual businessman that's built actual things with his actual hands, right? These Democrats have not. So they try to build through legislation, not through actual production.
Well, I will correct you a little bit there, because I was in the Philadelphia airport and I saw a water fountain that was built by Joe Biden. It said this water fountain brought to you by Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. And I was able to refill my water bottle.
I humbly stand corrected.
Yes, exactly. Take your humble pie there. I mean, I wonder how much the sign cost to print up that they had to prove, they had to print a sign to let you know that this water fountain.
It was a full wall saying this water fountain brought to you by the Biden Inflation Reduction Act.
I believe we got 1/100th.
You got me that. You got me on that one. I humbly respect. I humbly give you that. So.
And I don't know if you could hear Philip, our producer Philip. He was saying, I believe we got 1/100th or 1/100,000th of those charging stations. Remember, we were supposed to get all these EV charging stations that the government was building. What happened to those?
We're waiting. I don't know where they're at. I mean, it's freezing in D.C. I mean, we were out earlier today, and I will tell you, I don't see charging stations. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Someone in our chat says it was probably a fluoride fountain. That's probably what it was. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hunter, thank you so much for. Thank you so much for jumping in on this, and it's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, there's an economic disaster that Biden has left President Trump. It's going to be very difficult, I know, for him to have to hopefully working with Congress to get some of these things undone and push through these policies, because it's going to be very interesting next 8 months as we watch the commercial real estate market, all of these commercial loans coming due with these empty office spaces. So I'm hopeful that things can be turned around here in the next few months. Final thoughts, Hunter. I'll give you the final word.
Well, listen, it's always a pleasure to be on your program. I think you guys do an incredible job. My closing points are, it may be cold in D.C., but there's a lot of warm places, in our hearts for the future of this country. And, as a businessman myself, I'm responsible for a lot of people and a lot of payroll. And I will tell you, I'm just hopefully optimistic that Trump is going to come in and clean house and right us on the right track to really make America great again. So that's my hope. We're going to be watching it very, very carefully. In the first 100 days, I want to see what he's going to do day one with these executive orders and what these executive orders actually are going to allow to happen. So we're going to be watching it very closely. I think the main message is America's back, and I think he sent a message around the world saying, listen, this is America, and it's going to be America first.
Hunter Gaylor, thank you so much for taking some time out of this historic day. We appreciate you joining us once again. Thanks, Hunter.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Always a pleasure.
Well, it's interesting that he says he's hopeful. Clayton, you say you feel optimistic.
I'm always optimistic. I'm a glass half full kind of person, except right now my water is empty.
You just said that to your wife.
I am hopeful.
Okay.
I'm an optimistic person. Don't undercut me.
All right. My point was going to be, you're hopeful. Hunter's hopeful. Here's the New York Times headline of Trump's inauguration speech. Trump paints a grim picture of America in his inaugural speech. Okay, what's grim about that?
Well,
I'm so curious.
Well, he did paint a grim picture of where we currently are.
Of where we are now?
Yeah, it was a hopeful speech. I mean, we've had tens of millions of illegal immigrants that are in the United States, many of them criminals, hardened criminals. Look what just happened in freaking Aurora, Colorado. Yeah. They literally had to close down the apartment complexes where Tren de Aragua had taken over these apartment complexes. We're seeing violent crime. We're seeing Americans killed by these illegal immigrants. Mm-hmm. That is grim. We're seeing America's debt at $36 trillion in national debt right now. We're seeing U.S. dollar being undercut around the world. We're in a trade deficit to Europe. They have a trade surplus.
Right.
It is grim.
Well, their headline suggests to me that is his derision of America,
right.
That it's Trump's painting this picture that the rest of us do not live in. And so, okay, I mean, do we expect anything less of the New York Times? It just felt like a particularly low point in their history of the New York Times.
Yeah, exactly. Well, all right. So, yeah, we're going to try to check back in here at Capital One Arena in a moment, we hope. We're trying to get back there because they're anxiously awaiting for President Trump to arrive there and sign all these executive orders. I want to see that happen. Right now, he's still speaking at the U.S. Capitol. Donald Trump loves to speak. So here's a live look right now. President Biden aboard what was Air Force One. It's no longer designated as Air Force One. He is leaving Joint Base Andrews, heading back to Delaware. President Trump speaking at the U.S. Capitol here. So we'll take the president here in just a second. But first, the average American right now is finding it difficult to pay expenses every month, and in most cases, there's nothing left over to cover any extras. Most aren't getting a big raise. One of the big reasons President Trump won is because of inflation skyrocketing right now. Expenses are up. It's very hard to manage without grabbing your credit cards. If you're a homeowner, you're frustrated with that cycle. I need you to make a 10-minute no-obligation phone call to our friends over at American Financing. If you're constantly carrying a credit card balance each and every month with a rate in the 20s or even 30s, American Financing can show you how to put your hard-earned equity to work and get you out of debt. Right now, give them a call, 866-890-8434 today, or go to the website americanfinancing.net/redacted. That's americanfinancing.net/redacted. It's just a 10-minute phone call. There's no upfront fees. Nothing will cost you on the phone to find out how much money you can save every month. Just give them a call today. NMLS 182334, and that's consumeraccess.org. So thank you for their support and supporting our special inauguration coverage, the folks over at American Financing. We appreciate their support of our show today. All right.
Well, President Trump has been elected. In the newsletter, I will no longer call him President-elect Trump. I don't like typing that out. It's annoying. He is now currently speaking with Vice President J.D. Vance and Speaker Mike Johnson behind him. It appears he's speaking off the cuff now. We can check in on him, which says to me that he may have had his inauguration script more, or his inauguration speech a bit more scripted. It seemed to me that he was reading something prepared. Is that your take on it?
What are you talking about? His inauguration speech?
Mm-hmm.
You think it was scripted?
The speech today did seem scripted that we watched together.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
I'm 100% scripted, and it was all in a teleprompter in front of his face. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few moments where he ad-libbed during that speech.
Yes.
And it's usually printed ahead of time. So the news organizations had a copy of it, like right as he was about to deliver that speech. They handed that out. So
He may have ad-libbed a little bit, but it seemed to me that was a carefully crafted speech to set the tone of his second administration. Go ahead, Philip.
I'm just happy I won't have to keep typing or trying to text the word inauguration because I misspell it every single time.
Yeah.
So now
you get
that's over,
the
I'm
auto
glad.
spell check. It's
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
Shall we check in to see what they're discussing?
Yeah, let's listen in for a moment.
System and at the right is the fake news that they don't want to talk to anybody. So when you call somebody from Trump, who are you voting for? They say, it's none of your business. I'm not telling you. And that was probably 40% of the people they called. So they would discard that one, and they didn't show that. And then when the election happened, the vote came, and it was much different, much higher than we're going to win, but they really thought, they couldn't believe the one man said, it was so much higher. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by millions of votes, which is hard for a Republican. I'll tell you who came through. The unions came through. The auto workers were great. The Teamsters were great. The firemen were great. I think almost every union was great. The only one that weren't great, although Sean was great, and the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters, was fantastic. But generally speaking, the head of the union was against Trump, but the union would be with us for like 85%. Look what we did with the auto workers in Michigan. Look what we did with the Teamsters. The Teamsters were unbelievable. They were a solid Democrat vote, and they voted for Trump. So we had a great experience. Now we have to go to work and get it done because we have to do something that's going to be great. We're going to turn our country around, and we're going to turn it around fast. And I think this was a better speech than the one I made upstairs, okay? I think this was better, JD. I think this was much better, and I got to see my friend. So, Governor, take care of yourself. You call me, we'll start working. You know what that means with him. He's going to be calling me tomorrow morning at about 6. And I said, how about next week? You call me, and we're going to get it started real fast. We'll really help you a lot. You've done a fantastic job protecting something which it's not supposed to be for the states. And amazing job you've done. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody. And I have a First Lady who's been incredible. She's been incredible. I shouldn't say this. I'm going to get hell when I say this, but her feet are absolutely aching. You know those heels?
I told you.
Yes.
We thought we were
I told you,
going
yeah.
home. Sir, would you be able to go down and say hello to some of your other fans that are here? I said, oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Did you get to see pretty clearly the picture, I hope? Good. That's good. But
She's wearing high heels.
She's wearing stilettos. She did the parade walk in 2017, and I wondered how she was doing that in the cold in those 3-inch heels. And he's let us in to that.
Maybe 400 or 500
That is
yards.
the
That's
pain
5-foot ball fields.
of being a stylish woman.
I said, can you make it? She said, we're going to make it no matter what. We're going to make it because we have to go, right?
Get her a reflexology appointment post-haste.
And then we went out to the helicopter, though, just prior to this and said goodbye. And it's a custom, and the wind is blowing like crazy. And with the hat that she's wearing, she almost blew away. We almost lost her.
Like Mary Poppins.
She was being elevated off the ground. She almost blew away. No. So we all appreciate it because she's been a great First Lady, a beautiful and a great First Lady. And they love our First Lady. You know, JD, whenever I make a speech, I see hundreds of times, we love our First Lady, and they do, and they should. She's great. So I just want to thank you very much. I just want to thank everybody.
Beauty is pain, folks.
I felt that.
Takes a lot to look like
should
that.
You give them the A treatment, the B treatment, the C, the D, or the F. You know what the F is? Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye. I gave you the A+ treatment. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Governor. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
All right, there's President Trump speaking with supporters, union members, and others who managed to get into the Capitol. They weren't in the main room, so it was a whole section, a separate section of the Capitol outside of the Capitol Rotunda. He came down and spoke to, which I'm sure made them thrilled. These are longtime supporters of the president as well. And now there's supposed to be a luncheon, which is happening. It's supposed to be happening like right now. We're in about 30 minutes. I don't know if that's going to happen or that's got pushed back because he's going to be heading over to Capital One Arena. Capital One Arena, of course, where over 20,000 individuals are standing by and waiting for the president to show up there because they have a podium set up where he is set to sign a number of executive orders at the Capital One Arena as well.
That parade set to begin at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. That's what supporters are being told. I'm sure they would forgive him for being slightly late. Might be kind of hard to get through the city at this point.
All right, we want to bring in Carson Carpenter, who is at the Capital One Arena right now. And Carson, are you able to flip your phone just to landscape if you're... Oh, you're fine. You're fine like that. That's fine. You're good. I don't know if you're able to hear us, Carson. Inside the arena, can you tell us what the scene looks like there as you guys wait for President Trump to arrive?
Yeah, absolutely. It is totally busy right now. This arena, everyone's getting some food, waiting for the president to arrive. It's a beautiful event. I'll go out to the tunnel right now. This is what the picture is like here right now. It's a beautiful setup here. We have a lot of chairs down there. We have Peter Navarro up on the stage right now. And everyone got to see President Trump's inauguration. And it was electric here. It was totally, you were able to hear yourself clearly.
We're kind of breaking up there. I know the signal is probably at a premium there inside the arena. Oh, there we go. Okay. I'm sure bandwidth is at a premium there with tens of thousands of people trying to get on the network at the same time. So when do you expect President Trump to arrive at the arena, Carson?
In about an hour and a half is when Trump is supposed to arrive here at the arena, and he's planning to sign executive orders in front of the crowd. I think the number was 50 executive orders from what I remember hearing before coming to the event today. And it's going to be something that's truly unprecedented to see a sitting president sign in front of close to 25,000 people. It's going to be a truly amazing sight.
Do you think that those people possibly were disappointed that this was moved indoors, that they weren't able to see it, or was there this collective spirit? And what do you think were the biggest applause lines inside that arena?
I would have to say a lot of people disappointed at first, but once they're able to see this amazing event and what was put on so last minute, and how it was done in such a professional manner, I think the people are very happy here. But the president really great the spirit of the American people, truly made everyone here feel very special and very accommodated. And I think, like President Trump said, the golden age is to come, and no one is disappointed with that.
So over 100 executive orders. We're hearing upwards of maybe even 200 executive orders. I understand there's a desk and a podium set up with pens and ready to go. So that's going to be exciting. So at about an hour and a half wait before the president arrives, there's a number of speakers there at Capital One Arena. I guess they have a luncheon now. So President Trump is going to go get some lunch. People getting food there. And I guess we'll have to check in and see what all those executive orders are a little bit later today. Carson, any final thoughts there from the arena?
I'd have to say we need to let this man eat. We need to let him have some lunch. He's been through hell and back as our president, and after being our president for the first time. And I think it's just the start of the Democrats putting him through hell. But he's stronger than ever. He's more important than ever. And I think our country is truly on an optimistic path to greatness.
Well, thank you for bringing us into the arena with you. That's very exciting since most of us are watching from our home. So we wish you a joyous celebration as you await the president's arrival.
Thank you very much to you both.
Thanks, Carson. All right. Obviously, a bandwidth at a premium there. So thanks to Carson for joining us from the arena. And yes, President going to go have some lunch now. That luncheon, that private luncheon is about to happen. President Biden is gone from Washington, D.C. President Trump is now the 47th president of the United States. In about an hour and a half, maybe upwards of 200 executive orders about to be signed at Capital One Arena. So with that, I think we'll let all of you guys go and get some food, get some lunch, or even dinner time wherever you're watching us around the world right now. We want to thank you for joining us here for our special presidential inauguration coverage on Redacted. We really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting independent media and subscribing to our channel. We're live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We do this show. We cover the stories the mainstream media largely ignores. So the legacy media is dead. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris. We really appreciate you being here with us. What a journey it's been together.
And thanks to Philip, thanks to David, thanks to Grim, thanks to Simon, thanks to the whole team here at Redacted for putting on this special inauguration coverage. We really appreciate it. We don't have billions of dollars like Fox News does, so we are supported by you guys. And with that, we'll say great afternoon to all of you, and let's make America great again. We'll see you, everyone. Bye now.